Hello and welcome to the No Gimmies podcast. We took another week off in the summertime because we both have busy lives and we have things that we need to do. But we are back again to cover another division of the NBA. The Pacific Division is going to be our topic of conversation today. That's going to be the meat and potatoes. But we start, as we always do, by saying hello to our co-host, Aaron Bullwinkle. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. Excited to talk some basketball with you. Obviously, I'm in a little bit of a testy mood today. We've had that conversation off air, but separate of just the fact that there's a thing in the general air. Obviously, what happened today, which we will talk about much later, primed me to be really kind of in an extra fired up mood for this podcast.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, fortunately, most of you already know our brand. You've heard me be cranky or worked up before, so this may not be anything new. But for all reasons that we're aware of, the Dallas Cowboys decided to just like really fucking push my button today.
And I do want you to say that because it's going to be so. I came to a decision today before we started doing the podcast. You and I, we have our segment on here where we're allowed to cook for a couple of minutes, and I still think that's a good idea. But now I want to introduce a new segment for the end of the podcast called Rants and Raves.
Okay.
Rants. So at the end, if you're feeling that you have something you want to rant and rave about, the way that I screamed about the Yankees, the way that you have screamed, that you feel like screaming about the Dallas Cowboys, I want us to save that for the end because apparently there was a lot of positive feedback about me screaming about the Yankees for like 8 straight minutes.
Yes.
And so now we're going to make that a regular thing because we're basically just going to copy ESPN's model. We're just going to have somebody yell a lot.
We will never, ever, 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 ever in any way, shape, or form copy anything ESPN's doing, and I don't want to be associated with their brand in any way. That being said, the combination of catharsis and schadenfreude that was given in the experience of your Yankees impassioned plea, whatever, for those that enjoyed it, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be cooking at the same level, but I've got a hibachi level of heat ready at the end of this. Now, we've talked about it enough. I just wanted to prime people for where my energy was being approached from. This is going to be a hot angle vector. That's all.
Well, I always appreciate it. And plus, I love to dump on the Dallas Cowboys. I'll let you go first, but then we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But what we do want to talk about, as we want to lead the show with the tip-off, and that's with the WNBA, which is what we've been doing the last couple of episodes, which is what we should be doing now that the NBA season is over. We like to dedicate the top of our show to the W. We are getting close to playoff time. We're coming down to the wire. There's still quite the jockeying for position with as far as position goes. Obviously not at the top. The Lynx have run away with that. But what has gotten supernova, what was...
Unmute on your end. Sorry.
Oh, I see it.
I hit the wrong thing. Restart that. I'll edit it.
We're just start at the top.
Yeah, just start at the top again,
Okay.
Just going back into WNBA. Sorry.
Sure. Well, we are obviously going to get to Aaron's feelings about the Dallas Cowboys much later in the show, but we want to start the episode the way that we've been starting the episode the last couple of weeks, and that is with the WNBA. We are in the NBA postseason, but the W is red hot right now. We are coming down to playoff time, and there's still some jockeying for position as far as like playoff seeding goes. Not at the top of the division. Obviously, Minnesota's had that locked up pretty much since the season started. But what has become interesting, it was once a one-woman race for MVP, and now we have 3 dogs in this fight. And all 3... Oh, please. Oh, wait. Are there more? Are you adding a 4th?
I think we do Alyssa Thomas a disservice by not at least including her name in that race, considering how well Phoenix has played.
She's on my list. So who's your 4th?
Okay, then you're forgetting Alicia Gray because she has to still be in any conversation right now, considering to me, Alicia Gray is in the conversation from beginning to end of the season as maybe the best overall player on both sides of the floor because of her health and how good she's been at every level. Now,
Make it a
So
4-woman race.
yeah. And now you keep going, and then we'll get into it a little bit more. But I think all four of those ladies that have to be in at least bunched together, even if we do feel like right now there's probably two players that are head and shoulders sort of above.
I respect you for adding her into the conversation. I've been saying it's a 3-woman race, but it's absolutely a 4. You could even expand it maybe to a 5th if you want to get crazy, but I'm not going to go that far with it. I think 3 is a nice round number. But 4, we are totally going to talk about Alicia Gray as well. But for the majority of this season, Nafisa Collier was head and shoulders above everybody else. She was a runaway favorite to win the MVP for this season. And then she took a bit of a tumble. She was out for a couple of weeks, and A'ja Wilson decided to become the A'ja Wilson. And then Alyssa Thomas has also become something the WNBA has never had in its entire existence. She's been a triple-double machine. She's had 4 in the last month, which is just insanity. She has 7 on the season.
Well, now you mean something they've never had separate of her, because she just broke her own single season record for triple doubles.
That's what
I'm
saying. She's on her own. Like, no one's done as many triple doubles as her. No one has impacted the game with all 3 of those factors. I mean, she's becoming the Russell Westbrook of the WNBA, which is just it's a lot of fun to watch because you don't really see that.
Yeah, no.
Hey. This is an anti-Russell Westbrook slander show. Look, but fair enough.
Let's just keep it real.
Yep.
So a lot to kind of it's a lot of exciting stuff and a lot to unpack, because obviously the last 2 weeks of the season have been both crazy in terms of some of the competitive matchups that we've had. We've seen a lot of high level games between the Dream and the Aces, the Aces playing the Mercury, the Aces playing the Liberty. Just like, it's been fun to really watch. And one, we're kind of have this level of demarcation that's a little bit unfair to the Liberty, because Breanna Stewart's injury obviously plays such a major role in why that's the case. But there are 4 teams that are clearing away the best group of teams right now. Now, I expect the Liberty, if Breanna comes back healthy, and I know she's been back practicing, I believe, or at least starting to get.
I think she played in the last game, actually.
She did play in the last game.
Yeah, they're 18-7 with her. I can't remember their record without her, but it's not good.
Yeah, well,
it's like 3-8 or something like that.
Yeah,
something bad.
I was gonna say, quick math tells me they're 5-8 then if they were 18-7.
5-8, yes. So, yeah. There you go.
So I apologize, because again, this week's been a little bit crazy for those out there.
Okay.
That if she did in fact play, no, she has not. Oh, I apologize. You're right. She did. She played against Connecticut.
Yeah, she was in the last game against the Sun.
Yeah. Yes. And she came back and had 19, much like Fee, who had 30 when she came back, because that's 11 players.
Mm-hmm.
To bring it back in, it's been wild to watch what's happening, because one, Nafisa Collier, like you said, was the runaway favorite. And the biggest knock on Nafisa Collier was the fact that she had missed games. She's already missed more games than any prior WNBA MVP has ever missed. And more importantly, and it's what's really funny about how this happens, the Lynx were 5-2 without her. So that's
the point. That's the point I was going to bring up, is that, like, the argument against her is that, like, they didn't stop winning whenever she went out. If you take A'ja Wilson off this Aces team and they plummet to the bottom of the WNBA standings.
They are 1-2 without her. The one game they won was a bad win. I mean, there are no such things as bad wins, but you know what I mean? And it's no knock on Nafisa Collier, because I think if you told me right now Nafisa Collier was still your MVP, I could get that. But when you talk about most valuable player and you see what has happened to A'ja during this 12-game run, where she's just gone, she continues to prove over and over again, when she's at her best, she's the best player in the WNBA. And right now, what she's been doing, because she just affects the game at so many levels, and she's so infectious from an energy standpoint, and like, she brings it to a level of intensity that people can't match. And for the first 2/3 of the season, really, it felt like that A'ja was gone. I kept talking about it. Looked like she was hungover. Attending the games now, it's different. You can feel the difference. You can see the difference in her intensity. And now the one other thing that's been really important is also where she's scoring from, getting to her spots, just all this stuff that just looks like a completely different player who's now spurred on a 12-game run that has taken the Aces from a team where when this run was kind of midway through, I made the joke about it was the girl that invites you to go out, but they want to go hook up with another person because I was like, obviously this is just all fake. Now it feels legitimate. Like you watch them, they are inspired. They have coalesced and galvanized around her. And look, I don't know who's going to win it. It's really between those two, even though, like I said, Elisa Thomas, because of what she's doing on that team and how she's doing. I mean, she's head and shoulders above everybody in assists per game. And she's just she impacts the game on so many levels. Now, the one thing I will say, Phoenix has had to adjust what they do stylistically around her in a way that's makes them feel a little one note at times, although we've had this conversation about other teams in ways that
are you talking about in like a heliocentric way that like,
well, yeah, because she has to be the
focal point.
The focal, and even though Satu Sabali does her stuff, and Kalia Copper just hasn't really gotten going. She's obviously it's been a season where she's been dealing with her leg issues, and she has moments, but they don't have another playmaker. They have nobody else who can drive their offense. So everything goes through her, and that's not a knock on her, but it is also part of how your stats end up looking the way they do because, like you said, it is pretty heliocentric. And
I think they're a little undermanned, I guess, as what they're like. So they're relying on her to do more because they don't have what, like you said, another option.
Well, it's a weird thing. You know, I made the note.
It feels a little disjointed.
Yeah, well, and it's strange just in terms of a team composition. They don't have another ball handler. They have nobody else who can really even handle the basketball. They had to build. Look, they made these really dynamic trades to get this big three that you can legitimately call a big three, and then they're leaning on all these rookies. They have 4 rookies who are playing significant minutes for them. Now, granted, several of these are international players in Okoye Makani and Lexi Held and I'm going to blank out on the other girl's name right now, but it'll come to me in a moment. But they've figured out how to fold these players in, much like the conversation I was having about the Valkyrie, but it's just a weird way to build a team. And I think some of that happens when you have a player like Alyssa Thomas. She can't shoot. She's got to play the power forward. She's your primary ball handler. So what do you do to build around that? You probably don't want another, but to not have one other guard, it's just kind of a funky thing. But that's just kind of, I'm not trying to poke holes in her.
No, I mean, let's go through the stats real quick. Just some raw data. You've got Alyssa Thomas. She's 16, 9 and 9 and 1.6 steals. So like you said, leading the W in assists per game by a wide margin. You go over to Asia Wilson. We're talking 23, like 10 boards, 3.1 assists. And like we were talking about off air, she's almost averaging 4 stocks per game.
That's crazy work.
2.2 blocks and 1.6 steals. She had a block the other night on Brittany Griner that, I mean, you realize she's giving up 4 inches? 4 or 5 inches?
Yeah, I would say 5.
She blocked her like she was the bigger player. She blocked her without fouling in such a way that I was like, she made Brittany Griner like rethink if she wanted to go into the post again. And then obviously Nafisa Collier leading the league in scoring at almost 24 a game, 24, nearly 8, 3 assists, and she's also got 3.4 stocks per game.
And so, that field goal percentage for Fee, considering that she's the 3-level scorer, being almost 54%,
is insane.
It's some insane work. Like this is. I don't remember the Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson run 2 years ago where I actually thought Asia should have won the MVP, to be honest. But I think sometimes and it's not, Brianna had a great year, but I think
just a little voter fatigue.
I think it's voter fatigue. And I think we may end up seeing that this year as well, because at this point, if the Aces finish the way they finish and the Lynx stay on the path that they're on, it's hard for me to argue that Asia Wilson isn't the MVP just because, again, it's most valuable player. It's not most outstanding player.
I think that's kind of the problem. I think if they changed the name of these awards to the most outstanding player, we'd stop having these conversations.
Why don't we just have both? Why can't we do both?
Get 2 separate ones? I don't understand that. Because if you look at, like we already brought this up, at pure value, if you take Asia Wilson off the Aces, that team plummets. They
That team
do
hasn't
nothing.
won 9 games this season if she's
Yes.
not on that group.
Yeah.
Like,
And then if you take, I mean, we've already seen her miss 7 games. If you take
Yeah.
Fee off this team, she's the most outstanding. Asia's the most valuable. I could make that argument in my head. I would be fine with that if it happened in the NBA. If SGA was the most outstanding player and Jokic was your MVP, I would have
yeah,
been just fine with that because
I would actually maybe even you could argue to flip those, which is kind of wild.
well,
But
no,
yes,
I would say that if you took Jokic off that team, Denver's not a playoff team. Oklahoma
yeah,
City, I think they probably would have been a 4 or 5 seed without Shea, just because of how deep they were.
yeah,
That's
you're right. I think I'm getting a little too caught up in what Shea's season ended up meaning
it
as a
was awesome.
championship run.
And
But you're
look,
right. You're right. You're right.
I made the argument on Threads as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, not trying to get off the point, but I was like, Jokic is my MVP. But I understand that Shea's probably going to win it because there's also a narrative around it. There's voter fatigue. We're having this right now with Asia Wilson. We could give her the MVP every single year that she plays, and you wouldn't be like, well, that was unfair. That didn't seem right. But
Yeah,
after a certain point, they do want to see somebody else step up, and which is not a knock to Nafisa Collier. If she
not at
doesn't
all.
get injured, I think that she's still the MVP, and but this race is that much closer because of the time that she missed, and it just happened to coincide with Asia's like resurgence, reemergence, whatever you want to call it. She's become a different player in the last few weeks.
Yeah, did Asia pull like the Kobe and go to Germany real quick?
I
Like
think
what?
she found
What?
Michael Seekich stuff in the locker room.
Yeah,
I don't know.
as an Aces fan, everybody out here has heard how this season has felt for me and all that. And there are still things that I feel very similar with. Like for as awesome as it's been to watch and how much more buy-in they have defensively. Like they've actually shored up a lot of the mistakes that were just driving me effing crazy. It's still very weird what happened. Like it's
I was going to bring this up. I was going to ask you a question.
yes.
How much credit do you want to give Becky Hammon for the turnaround? Has she like found something with her lineups and her adjustments that has like turned this team a little bit?
I think that's irrefutable when you look at Jewel Lloyd being moved to the bench, which
Mhm.
the Aces' biggest problem for several seasons now, well, really since Raquana Williams went away with the domestic violence stuff 3 years ago. That was the last time I felt like they had like a really solid bench. That, I mean, don't get me wrong. The year that they beat the Liberty when their bench players came in, that was really impressive, but Candace Parker had already been done for that season, so the bench had already been shortened. It wasn't the same. Jewel Lloyd moving to the bench gave them a potent offensive weapon off the bench that they've been missing for several years. Now, it's interesting because Jewel's still only averaging 11 points per game during this run. She's shooting 40% from 3, which is big, but it just really rejiggered them in a way that allowed for much more versatility. And one of my biggest complaints with Becky over and over and over again, and I'm saying it like I know we're on first name basis, but with Coach Hammond, however we want to do it, has been her unwillingness to deviate from her plan. And I think she's been a little bit better about that. I also think what happened to them, which is thank God for the schedule this season, they hit a soft part of their schedule and got confidence against the right teams and then continued to build on that in a way that was really important. Chelsea Gray.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Chelsea Gray has played much better basketball during this stretch as well, which of course everybody's going to be elevating their level to meet it. But she still looks like she wears out as the game goes on, but first half Chelsea Gray has been a much more potent weapon during this stretch than she looked before. I still have a lot of the same concerns about what does this look like in a 5-game series against somebody really tough. But right now, Becky had to have done some stuff, right? Like I can't fault her when they're playing poorly and then not give her credit when they're playing well. She's found a balance, pushed the right button, and I just also think this team. This is the thing that I was when I had that impassioned appeal a while ago.
The eulogy.
This was what I was looking for. The give a shit. They didn't feel like they cared, and now it does act like it matters. And look, however this season ends, I'm hoping obviously that there's a deep playoff run and all the rest of it, but I'm just proud that they showed enough give a shit to turn this season around and give the fan base and themselves, like as a team who deserved another really solid run together, this opportunity to show what they were made of.
Hey, those get right games, to your point, they're incredibly important. You hit a rough patch of your season and you've got injuries, you've got these tough opponents. These it's, my coach used to call them compound mistakes or compound errors or compound misfortunes. They kind of just start to stack on top of each other and they feel somewhat insurmountable. So the way that you were feeling a few weeks ago, it was valid and you were not incorrect. What you were seeing, because you're a season ticket holder. You go to these games, you see these live, and you're also a very nuanced, thoughtful basketball person. You know the difference between a championship level team and whatever the hell it was they were playing at earlier in the season. And now those get right games, like adjustments being made on the coaching side, Asia's resurgence or reemergence or whatever you want to call it, all of that stuff kind of happens at the same time. And then when you have a leader who is as great as she is, kind of pulling the team along with her, everyone elevates their game to meet that energy, that type of I don't know what you want to call it, but the leadership that she has, she's pulling her team along with her. I mean, if anybody could get that team going back in the right direction single-handedly, it was going to be her. Nafisa Collier had, the Lynx haven't seen that kind of struggle. I just want to be honest. I think you can be too hot. You can be too good during the regular season, and you can run into a buzzsaw in the playoffs who just kind of hits you in the right place. For a team that's seen struggles and now is face them and then overcome them to be in the position that they're in, are they in the third seed at the moment?
No, they're in the second seed.
And
clinched a play that the game against the Dream clinched the playoff berth.
I do remember that.
Team, and they took over second seed. I do want to say something real quick though to your point. I agree with you about a team can be too hot, except for this Lynx team, as I've hammered home over and over again, are so professional and know what they're doing so well. This doesn't I don't think their winning during the regular season matters to them besides them just going, we're fucking handling business, bring the playoffs. There is nothing about this team that doesn't terrify the hell out of me.
They took 3 or 4 from the Liberty just like a couple of weeks over the last couple of weeks. Yeah. I had to sit there and take it every time. I think I texted you and it was just like, I was like, yeah, they're playing better. They still can't beat the Lynx though. Yeah, and you just texted me back and you go, who can?
Yeah.
So it's not been like, and the Liberty, they got one game on them, the last game in New York, and they had to play the best basketball they played, still without Breonna Stewart, but also Minnesota, still without Collier. But
you could tell how much that game mattered to the Liberty, which to their credit, the intensity that they brought in that game, considering the circumstances, was absolutely impressive.
That's the Jonquel Jones I needed to see in order to feel confident going into the playoffs. I was like, oh, she still exists? Great. Because I thought I was just getting kind of the hobbled, injury-ridden version of her that was a step slow and kind of a step late, and that was what was concerning me. But not that this isn't a Liberty conversation, obviously.
No, but I mean, we're talking about all of them, and you're right, because that Jonquel was the world beater version of herself, and she was pissed.
Yeah, and now when you see Stewie come back, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot their top 6 is as good as anybody's top 6 if they're all healthy and rolling together.
And the fact that they now get to slide Misam in to be competing against second units, considering what she had been doing against first units.
Yes.
That's some bull right there. Like, the Misam thing pisses me off because she's so impressive to watch play. Now, she's had a couple games lately where you could tell she was a little off with the rhythm and stuff, but she's just...
Well, I think you and I talked about this whenever Stewart came back, that she was going to have to kind of find her role within the flow of their rotation now that she's not in the starting lineup. But I think that she's going to have a few more games before the end of the year before to find that. But please go ahead.
And she's a smart enough player, her style of play as an offensive hub, because she's really great out of that, both the mid post and on the low block, being able to operate slow and then moving the ball. That's just who you're going to run your offense through in the second unit stuff. Like I don't even think it'll be that difficult to figure out. Now, the one thing I want to do before we tap out is I've got to give Alicia Gray a little bit of her love.
I was going to give you the floor for it.
Yeah. Because
here's the runway.
Look, and anybody who's listening to me, one of my most viral or whatever thread this year was me talking about Alicia Gray after game 1 and just how more people need to be talking about her. But this Dream Team is legit, and it's not because, their interior is awesome. Breonna Jones as the type of player, you've been playing basketball long enough, and at
Mhm.
every level you play basketball, there's that one player where you're like, that's just a professional basketball player. Like somebody who never plays outside of themselves, always makes the right decision. Everybody wants him on their team because they take nothing away, and they're also not going to demand a lot. Brianna Jones is that person. But Alicia Gray's play on both ends, and the way that she can attack you offensively from 3 levels now because she's become such a good 3-point shooter. Last time I checked, she was second in the league in 3-pointers made. She's shooting 38% from the 3, but she's a beast off of the dribble and in the open court. Like she doesn't, I think that I say it too often. She's not getting her credit, even though we keep doing it. But in general, I think this is the year where her player profile finally gets elevated to the level that's really deserved to be elevated to. And Ryan Howard made a really good point when she was pissed off after the loss where everybody was chanting MVP for Asia Wilson. And Ryan Howard said, we have a Gamecock right here. Like we have a Gamecock who is an MVP candidate that you need to be cheering for. And that's Alicia Gray. And she's completely right. Like she needs to be given her flowers. This dream team is legit. They're as scary as anybody in that top 4, top 5 range. And it is because of her at the top. Now I like their entire team. I like their balance. Ryan Howard's inconsistency as a scorer really concerns me come playoff time because she can get real inefficient real fast. And I think that could bury them. But like their top 6, it's a fun group. I mean, when Brittany Griner's coming off the bench and you have to contend with that and just watching her beat people up all day after Brianna Jones is running around and beating everybody up, like that's a tough team.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure Alicia Gray, we talked about the other 3, she's got to get her flowers because she is my favorite non-Aces player to watch in the league.
Great. Hey, we love a dark horse candidate, man. I'm always going to root for the underdog. I mean, it's always more fun that way. And yeah, I love that we had the opportunity to give her flowers.
Yeah.
Good job by you. Is there anything else that we need to talk about in the W before we move on?
Nothing else. I don't know if we'll record before next Tuesday's game, which is obviously like that is the matchup right now. The Aces, the schedule's been so wild. The Aces don't play the Sky all season,
It's
and they
so
play 3
wonky.
out of their last 5. The Aces have a week off towards the end of the season, so they played last night. They don't play again until next Tuesday, but the Lynx are coming into Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas. I'll be there present to see what that's like because that game is the real litmus point test for what this Aces team is. They don't have to win the game, but the Lynx have come in and kicked the shit out of them every game for the last 2 seasons here at Michelob Ultra. They need to come, and what the last one was that 46-point game where I just left. They need to show that they are. If they're a championship contender like it feels like now, then they have to show that in this matchup against a fully healthy Minnesota team.
I absolutely 100% agree, and I cannot wait for those matchups. Is it too grandiose? Is it too hyperbolic to say that like how those matchups go might help determine the MVP race?
No, I mean, the winner of that game, that may literally dictate the MVP, to be honest. Especially
I hate that that's true because it's a season award, but I wanted to ask the question because it felt relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, because the other thing that happens is even though their season award, voters, everybody falls victim to recency bias, right? And so like what we're seeing down the stretch, it's part of the reason it helps Asia's argument is how hot the Aces have gotten, separate of the conversation about what the Lynx have looked like without Fee. It's just Asia is putting on a show right now. And so this is the opportunity for Fee to come in and kind of course correct a little bit the greater narrative and what people are seeing and show that it's really her award to win, especially if they come in and it's just an ass kicking again, then I think Asia all of a sudden drops a notch below, even if that's not fair to her.
No, I 100% agree. I'm very excited for those matchups. I cannot wait to watch those. Pay the women what you owe them. I think that's just, let's just pay them because these matchups have been awesome all season long. Yeah. I also just wanted to bring up, I sent you the Ishbia quote.
Well, we might as well talk about that once we get into the. Let's get.
Okay, I'll save it for Phoenix.
Guess who's going to be our first team because I have Phoenix last in the Pacific, so we can get to it. You can use that as your transition. Let's talk about Mash Ishbia being.
That's what this is my transition take. Yeah. So here we go. So we are moving back to the Western Conference in the NBA. We are moving back to the Western side, as far west as you can possibly go. We are going to the Pacific Division. We got the Lakers, we got the Kings, we have the aforementioned Suns, the Warriors, and the Clippers.
That
Let's
is
go.
correct. Yeah.
Let's go. But yeah, as we're going to start these the way that we always do with the team at the bottom first. I also had the Phoenix Suns at this team at the bottom of this division, which is funny to say because I don't like that Kings team at all. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah. We'll save it. Yeah, because I'm excited that this. To be honest with you, this may be the most intriguing division, top to bottom, to talk about.
I was kind of thinking that myself. Like, I know that the bottom is like pretty. I don't know because like I say it's clear because it feels clear to me, but I mean, it doesn't mean that like it's a shoo-in that the Suns are going to be bad. They just look bad on paper.
They're gonna be bad. Like they're gonna be bad.
Well, that's what you idiots thought. You idiots thought we were going to be contenders the last 2 years.
Why don't you give us the quote before we get into it?
I want to make sure that I read this correctly.
Well, while you're looking it up, real quick.
Well, okay, I'll just summarize. I'll summarize. So Matt Ishbia is basically sitting in front of the reporters, and he says, and they were saying that basically that everyone projects them to be bad this season, and he says, this is me paraphrasing, I don't really care what these so-called experts say. These so-called experts also had us as a contender for the NBA Finals the last 2 years, and they were wrong about that, huh? What an amazing quote. You had you as a NBA Finals contender the last 2 years. Everybody else in the media was like, a little skeptical, a little unsure.
I will say to his credit, not you and I at all. I was shocked by the number of people who picked the Suns to win, to get their over, and to be a legitimate contender last year.
Last year, because the year before, I had no faith.
The year before, they had their best health luck with a whole smattering of injury-prone players, and were still just kind of above mediocre. I didn't get what everybody saw going into last season.
I think I had them 2 years ago. I had them 5th in the West. That was me being like, they have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Like, you know, I like Bud in this role. Like, I think he's a championship level coach. I was like, I get this. This makes sense. They got to find some like bench pieces. They're a little thin there. But yeah, I get this. So like, but I didn't say, wow, Phoenix got Kevin Durant. They're number one with a bullet.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people were like, yeah, they're going to win the West. And I was like, well, let's slow down.
Many people were hitting the over for them going into last season, and I didn't get it. Like, look, we know what the year was, so we don't really have to talk about that. I mean, they went 36-46. They were 27th in the league in defensive rating, and that is very important because this defense is going to be worse. How is this defense better?
I'm dead serious. I thought that was it was probably my least favorite team to watch last year. I'm not even joking. I think I had like watching a Phoenix game was like, did you ever see that scene in A Clockwork Orange where they like pry the guy's eyes open and make him watch? That's what, if someone was like, hey, you want to watch the Suns game? I was like, not unless you duct tape my eyes to my forehead. Like, there's no way that I could watch that team and be like, yeah, this is good basketball.
I mean, you and I, like, for our consistent listeners, I'm going to apologize because this is probably the 30th time that we've mentioned how much we hated watching that team last season.
I hated it.
But it was a bad vibes team. So it wasn't even like a group where, okay, you're not playing great basketball, but at least there's this. And this is why I'm down on this team this year. Look, Devin Booker is a phenomenal player. I always have Devin Booker in the top 15, all those things. I don't know that Devin Booker is a good vibes player on a bad team. I think when things are going poorly because of how cantankerous he can get, and some of it is just based on competitive edge, but I don't care. I felt the same way about Kobe when he was struggling. That it was just he made for a toxic situation, and guess who's Devin Booker's favorite player? The guy he tried to emulate himself after. And this is a circumstance.
Why do you think he hasn't asked for a trade yet? I think him and Tatum they're like, Kobe would never ask for a trade, even though he did.
Yeah, I was gonna say
multiple times.
Everybody
No one
loves
ever
to
brings.
rewrite. Yeah, we love to
Yeah,
rewrite that. What was that? 2007, I think, or
yeah,
2006, where he asked to be
yeah. He
traded.
wanted to go to the Bulls.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
and I
love
was
to
like,
act
but
like that
anyway,
never happened.
but that's the thing. We rewrite these players like legacy, and they're like these guys honestly believe. And I will say this as someone who has Jalen Williams and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on his favorite team, who both have Kobe as their number one player of all time. I'm great with that. As far as if they don't want to leave, great, come hang out with us forever. But do you think that I will say this for people who don't know or just tuning into the show, I am not as high on Devin Booker as everybody else that I listen to or talk to in the basketball world. All the other people that like the national broadcast, a lot of people have, Zach Lowe's high on Devin Booker, Ryan Russillo's high on Devin Booker. I have always been lower on him. I've always seen him as a kind of like empty calories guy, even though he's played on winning basketball. He didn't do that until he got winning teammates. But even then, it still didn't work unless he had a full team behind him, because we've seen what happens whenever it's a 1-2 punch.
I mean,
it's not good.
Look, the finals team in 21, excuse me, the finals team in 21, that he's the best player on that team. And granted, Chris Paul played very well and all the rest of that. Devin Booker was extremely impressive during that run.
But that was a deep team.
Yeah,
Look at the starting five.
No, I know. But also, it's really hard to go, well, he's only good when he has championship level players around him. Well, that's kind of the case for most guys. Now,
yeah, but I'm saying he can't take a bad team and make them average. He can't take an average team and make them good. He can be on a good team and help make them great. That's kind of where I take him.
I think that is mostly fair. And that goes back to my point, because I felt much the same way at times about Kobe during the Smush Parker run and stuff. Like,
I might feel the same way about Kevin Durant based on what I've seen from him the last few years.
Yes, although
he's going to be in the right position.
Yeah, but I also don't think we should be putting Kevin Durant post 35 in the same conversation as talking about Devin Booker, just because the expectations shouldn't be the same. Now, the reason that I do have Devin Booker as a top 15 player, so let's get it straight. Like, I don't have Devin Booker top 10, although plenty of people do. I usually have him on the outside looking in, somewhere in that 11 to 13 range. I have to look at my list right now. He has improved in so many levels from what he was. I do think he used to be an empty calories guy. That player that scored 73 or whatever it was against the Celtics, that was famously a guy who didn't make other people better. He's become a good playmaker. He's become a competitive defender, though not always a consistently great defender, but a much, much better defender than what he used to be. Is he the type of player that if he's your first option, you can build around him without another superstar? Probably not. And we're about to find out, because this team does not have another star on it. I don't care what you think about Jalen Green, and spoiler alert, Jalen Green is not the guy you think he is. Just real quick, Jalen Green, career assist to turnover ratio 1.42. That's gross. He's never shot better than 42.6% from the field. He's never shot better than 35.4% from the three. And when you look at all his stats, and I've talked about this before, over 4 years, it's just a flat line. Nothing has changed. And they play the same position.
Yeah. You don't have to talk to me about how much Jalen Green stinks. I'm already on that. I know you don't think that. I know you don't think that Jalen Green stinks.
I don't want to say he stinks, but
I'll say it for you. That guy stinks, and those two make no sense together. Both of people have been talking about Point Booker for the entirety of basically since Chris Paul got there. They're like, oh, Chris Paul's going to make him a point guard. Oh, Chris Paul got hurt. Well, here comes Point Booker to kind of handle the offense. He has improved on his assists and on his playmaking abilities and his ability to get his teammates open. He's still a shot first guard who is, I wouldn't say undersized as a guard, but he's undersized in the NBA. And you've got two guys who basically have the same skill set, who have the same ideas about how basketball is supposed to be played, and you're putting them in a backcourt together. Well, then the next answer was supposed to be last year that they were going to get Point Beal. How did that work out?
Well, oddly enough, he was their fourth best distributor, but part of
I'm
that
not
is actually
surprised by that.
but part of that is a symptom of the disease. Like they
Yes,
I like 2 seasons ago, Devin Booker was their primary ball handler, and they were actually pretty good, right? Like they won 46 or 49 games, whatever it was, and he was their primary ball handler. They ran into some serious problems come playoff time because I don't think he actually can be because they won 49 games. He's going to overexert himself in that role, and you do still need him to be this volatile scorer. And systematically, my assumption is you're probably going to have a lot of your turn, my turn with him and Jalen Green on the ball and off the ball. If you have two lead guards, you have zero lead guards. And the reality is Devin Booker should be a shooting guard who gets you great stuff in secondary actions, kind of like look, Devin Booker and Desmond Bane have a very similar skill set in terms of what I think of them as on-ball performers. I don't think that
sure.
they can actually be your lead guard, but they are very good playmakers when they're in that position. The problem is that the Suns have no playmakers. They lost three of their
None.
top four distributors from last season. And who's going to run the show for this group? Is it going to be Colin Gillespie? Because I'm tired of hearing about how excited I should be for him. Like he's supposed to be your 11th best player. Grayson
Yeah,
Allen's not a point guard. You
they
don't
did the
want,
same. Jordan Goodwin.
yeah,
like
Dylan Brooks going to bring the ball up for you. Like this group just doesn't. Who's getting them into stuff?
who's going to be getting into fist fights with the other team's best player if he has to bring the ball up the floor as well? He's only got two hands, guys. I will say this. I think that the Phoenix Suns would have been so much better off if they had a player like Dylan Brooks last year as a tone setter, defender.
Yeah.
I think that he would have fit perfectly alongside Kevin Durant and Devin Booker because he only scores whenever like he has to. And he loves to take the hard assignments. If Dylan Brooks was on this team last year, I would have been a lot like happier with that starting lineup, even with the center troubles and the lack of a big man on the interior presence. Because Dylan Brooks does a lot of the stuff that like you want a center to do. He guards bigger than his body. That's just who he is. But so let's take a look. So you know what's crazy?
I do want to say something while we're talking about the defense, though, because I have maligned the defense for what it looked like last year. They have a defensive unit that they can roll out that could be nasty as hell. The problem is they're not going to be able to score enough points on the floor. Because when you look at Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, Ryan Dunn, and Oso Ighodaro, you put Devin Booker with that group. That is a nasty defensive unit to deal with. But guess what else is nasty? The shooting and the scoring and everything else on the floor with that unit. I also don't expect Royce O'Neal to make it past the trade deadline because I think this group's going to be bad.
I think he's trade bait for sure.
It may be tough because I think he's only on the second year of that 4-year deal that they signed him to. That was a little bit too much money for Royce O'Neal during the period that we were talking about it being difficult.
Finances have changed for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I could see somebody like the Lakers talking themselves into him at that time of the year.
Is he redundant with like Rui Hachimura, or are they just like kind of?
Rui can slide up to the 5, and you can play Royce at the 3 or 4. And Rui's a good enough shooter that there's some units there that could make some sense. And I'm not saying the Lakers. That's just the first team that pops to mind who I could see going. This is a skill set we still need. We can figure this out financially.
We've seen this player get picked up around the trade deadline or picked up off waivers every year, and everyone's like, "Oh, what a big addition! It's Marcus Morris Sr." It's like, yeah, but that guy never played. So it used to be, God, what's his name? Jay Crowder.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder. There's always like a small forward, power forward, hybrid,
hybrid
shoot, defensive guy.
Well, it's always shoot in parentheses. It's never that they can actually shoot. It's like they can kind of shoot.
Yeah. Royce O'Neal's going to be he's in the Jay Crowder All Stars. There's always that guy.
Taurean Prince, who is a better shooter, but I feel like he's kind of in that same milieu of guys that are like you said, that 3-4.
He's a good defender and he shoots. You're like, well, if he's that good, why did anybody let him go? He will never play again. I forgot. So I also want to point out, you did say that they were 36 and 44 last year. That was good for dead last in the division, which is crazy.
36 and 46, but yes.
36 and 46, yeah. But they were dead last in their division. Yeah, that's how good that division was. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good division again this year. Now, do we want to go ahead and talk about what we think they're going to finish at?
Yeah, I'm ready. I don't want to talk about this team much more. So
I was like,
I'm
did
ready
you
when
have
you.
anything else on them?
No.
Okay.
All I have are tears for them.
I've got them at 29 and 53.
That's around. That's exactly where I had them.
I think this is going to be ugly. And like you look at the
I think it's going to get bad.
Yeah, you look at the big man rotation. If Mark Williams is healthy, maybe they can get something and he's exciting, but that's always a big if. Nick Richards has just got to be a platoon level player. And
I can't believe that he's a starting level player in the NBA. They went from having no centers last year to having 3 that I don't like any of them. I like Mark Williams when he plays.
Yeah, but he's also fatally flawed in terms of he's a bad rebounder and he's not the shot blocker that he should be. He's got a little DeAndre Ayton to his game, to be honest.
They should be familiar with that.
Yeah, except for he's not going to try to take jumpers the whole time. And I love Malawach, but Malawach needs like 3 years before I want to see him being relied upon.
Yeah, he's a project, and I've heard some negative stuff about him from like just people who have seen him play, like kind of in the last, they're like, ooh, it's going to be a while on that guy. So, but I could totally be wrong. He could totally find his footing and be halfway through the season.
The physicality of the NBA game this first season, we're going to see moments where he is going to look bad. It's just the truth of it. He's still building into his body. He's so young. He's just not he is a physical presence. Like he's huge. And when he's angry and he wants to do that stuff, so maybe something clicks. But this first year, I think there's going to be a lot of welcome to the NBA Rook moments.
Two more things, and then we can move on. One, I'm excited to see what Ott does with this team because, like, I don't think they're going to have expectations, so he can kind of work in his system, and maybe we can actually see some things. I don't think it's a good team, but maybe we can see like some semblance of like what his philosophy is as a coach. Yeah, whenever you don't have a lot of expectations.
Yeah, let's see what he's about.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of coach? What's his? What kind of culture is he going to implement with the team? What kind of what kind of style of play does he like? He was a big part of the Kenny Atkinson Cavs last year, so I think he did a lot of their offensive schemes. But we do know that. I mean, I'm sure he is qualified, and I'm sure that I hope that he does a good job. But we also know one of the reasons he got the job is because he went to Michigan State. So there is that. There is like that's part of it.
Yeah. We're not trying to discredit the guy's credentials, but it definitely helped him.
It definitely helped him.
Like if it was a race, he got a little head start.
That's right. Go Sparty. And the second thing that I would say is I hated that Devin Booker extension more than I probably hated any contract that was handed out. I thought that
you don't want to pay $75 million a year for Devin Booker.
Or Devin Booker, I was like, who is that for? Like, are you? I honestly can't believe that. I think that contract's god awful. Like we just talked about the Cowboys a little bit ago. They don't pay players whenever it's the right opportune time to do it because they could have paid Parsons last year for $10 million less. In the NBA, they pay everybody. Because I saw Zach Lowe be like, can someone put this trade into NBA terms for me?
Yes.
I'm like, no, I can't because the NBA pays their players maybe when they shouldn't.
Well, what it is you have to give a hypothetical goal. It's like trading Anthony Edwards for, a first round pick in Trae Young or something like that. Like just something. It's not even that good. But anyways, we're not getting there yet.
We're not there. I just wanted to say, like, there's no way. Like the NBA is like, well, we got to pay him. I'm like, do you? Do you have to give Paolo Banchero the full? Could you try to negotiate?
Here's my Devin Booker argument, and then we can tap out. I do believe that Devin Booker, when you look at the entire resume of the player, if this is the type of player where
he's a good player.
Oh, but his legacy is going to be hinged so much upon whether he does or doesn't win a title. Because if Devin Booker wins a title and then you look at his catalog and everything, it's going to look like one guy. If he doesn't win a title, it's going to look much like you said. It's going to feel so much more like empty calories. Now, Devin Booker has been to an NBA Finals as the best player on the team. James Harden has it. That's all I'm going to say, and then we can be done.
Okay, that's you know what? Fair enough. That's a wild thing to say. Speaking of Jay Crowder, did you know that he's actually still in the NBA and he's on my 4th team in the Pacific Division? He's on the Sacramento Kings.
Of course he is. I did not know that.
How'd you like that transition work?
Is he just like roster ballast? Like he can't be getting playing time with this group.
I think he's at like, I mean, I think he's dead on the bench. I think he might just be a contract they hold. I don't think he's ever actually suited up for them. I've never seen him on the bench.
I don't think he's still actively with them.
He might. This might be old.
Yeah, I think
like, that's where he was. That is where he was at the end of last season. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder exists.
Yes, I actually was aware of that because I do remember seeing on the bench a couple times. He is not still with them, as far as I'm aware. Yeah,
that's good to know. Well, yes. I do have the Sacramento Kings fourth in this division, and I don't have them that far ahead of this Phoenix team because I don't know what to make of this team at all. They have made some confounding decisions, to say the least, basically throughout their entire tenure. But now the saddest sentence I've seen in this NBA offseason is the Kings are trying to trade Malik Monk so that they can sign Russell Westbrook. I don't think it gets lower than that as far as like what your expectations are as a team.
The real big problem here is that the Kings, and we've already talked about this on the pod before, the Kings were headed in a cogent, sensible direction. It finally felt like they were getting over the Vivek of it all. And he went, no, my friends. Like, let's go chaos theory again. And the last 365 days for this organization has felt like the Kangs again and not the Kings. And not just, okay, so first of all, the Malik Monk thing, I can kind of get only because
they have from a financial standpoint.
The financial part, they have a ton of guards. They have issues defensively, and Malik Monk is a bad defender. I showed you.
But they want to get another guard to replace him.
That is another bad defender, which is the crazy.
That's another bad defender.
But it is a different cost, and Russell Westbrook's a better defender than Malik Monk, which is kind of an indictment on Malik Monk. But I showed you that stat where the Kings' top three, Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, were in the 11th percentile defensively. And then when you add Malik Monk, they're in the 3rd percentile defensively, giving up 125 points per game. So I'm sure somebody in the organization looked at that and said, we got to change things.
Yes.
But it's not just that. They're trying to trade Devin Carter. What did Devin Carter do to you guys? He hasn't even had an opportunity to show who he is. And I know in their theory, they're hoping that they can get something big. They floated him in a Kuminga deal. They're trying to get a first-round pick. But, like, and it was a different regime, which is crazy because they just drafted him a year and a half ago. But this was your 11th pick, I believe, last season. And now you're already out on this guy. And he didn't show anything to me last year. The shooting was – that's going to be the swing skill for him. But where he's best is as a defensive player. So we're talking about you guys having issues defensively at the guard position, and your best defensive guard, or second best because of Keon Ellis, is the guy you're trying to get rid of, who's on a rookie scale deal. How does it? What are you doing? That's such bad business.
That's bad business.
It's just it's. So here's the thing. For me, I don't think the Kings are going to be as bad as you think they will be, because when you look at this roster. Look, they've won more than four. They've won 40 or more games 3 straight seasons. I don't think this roster is worse than the team last year. I think it's in fact better than the team that went 40 and 42 last year, because Nick Clifford's going to come in and be a player that can help them defensively, especially with letting Keegan Murray not have to play the hardest defensive assignment all the time. Maybe Keegan Murray's offensive numbers are going to jump up a little bit again because Nick Clifford can slide into some of those roles. And you look at this group, like look, DeMar DeRozan at some point has to have a fall off, but he's still a very good offensive player. For all of Zach LaVine's warts, he's still a very good scorer, and he scores efficiently. Domantas Sabonis, we can have whatever problems we want to have with him. We talked about defensively. He's always considered such a liability because of the inability to protect the rim, which is really fair. But on the counter side of that, they give up only the 10th most points in the paint because he leads the NBA in defensive rebounding. So he doesn't give teams second shot opportunity. So yes, he gives up something on one end, but he's in terms of the shot blocking, but he is actually a very good kind of defensive component, not defensive player, but component.
Yeah. Well, I think it's his limitations. He's very aware of them. So he uses his body to shield and box out defenders. I mean, offensive players very well.
And
so
his
he's
physicality.
Actually excellent. And he's very physical. He's very strong.
He loves to lay the lumber on dudes coming through on drives and play physical. Yeah, keep going.
It'll be exciting for him to have like somebody try and do a pick and roll with him who's actually right-handed. since we've talked about that on the show multiple times. But I do want to just point out their additions.
Out of curiosity, who's that player though?
I'm hoping it's Keon Ellis.
Keon Ellis is not a good enough ball handler where you want to start running pick and roll with Keon Ellis with any consistency.
Why? What else do you have to lose?
But you're kind of making my point, though, is like you look at this grouping, there's not really like, I mean, Malik
Dennis
Monk
Schroeder's never been a lob guy. He's never been a pick and roll guy. He likes to kind of snake around and pull back and then, do the kind of stop and start thing. He likes to get defenders on their back heel and use his quickness to explode to the basket. He doesn't like to just run a straight dead line into the trees because that's not a place where he's going to do very well. He's not a great finisher at the rim either, not the way that he used to be when he was in Atlanta. So,
and to your point, he does work in the pick and roll, but he doesn't work as a passer.
He doesn't work downhill.
He's going to he'll get downhill, but he's just going to go straight to the rim, or he may spray out to shooters. But Sabonis is never going to see the ball.
That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing in Detroit. He was just He was spraying the ball outside and looking for shooters. He's looking to pass, but not to the rim runner. That was kind of my point. I do just want to point out that other than the addition of Schroeder, they also added Saric, Eubanks, and Isaiah Stevens. And now they're looking to add Russell Westbrook. What an offseason for Sacramento if that's who they're adding to this core group. Oh boy, that stinks.
But again, like you look at the 1 through 7, it's not a bad roster. Like it's really not. If Dennis Schroeder is your third guard, I mean, with Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, you can have a legitimate perimeter defense, right? Keegan Murray, I don't know what to make of him, but I do know that he's a good basketball player. I think he's a little over leveraged in how they've had to use him.
He's got a cool chant.
Yeah, he's got one of the best in the league. Absolutely.
One of my favorite things about watching a Kings game, really.
Yeah. It will counterbalance that with Mark Davis spamming hottest fish grease, who I love him. I just need to, I've had enough of that catchphrase. I'm sorry.
Put him on a flight like an IG model.
Yeah.
Like that's a good one.
That is a good, and I like him, but it's just, I can't hear hottest fish grease anymore. I need something different from him. It's like, it's a drinking game. It's like, with him during the game. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, fish grease is really hot.
But, yes, that is a fair fact.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm back in.
I'm interested to just see, like, does this group finish the year? Because this doesn't feel like a roster that finishes the season looking like this.
Here's my problem. They've already tried to shop every single one of these guys of their
including Sabonis.
Sabonis. They've been trying to shop for years. DeRozan, they tested the market. I thought like before Atlanta made a lot of the moves they made, I was like, Atlanta's intriguing. That didn't pan out. Levine, we've already seen that he really doesn't have a robust trade market. The only team that ever seems to trade with Sacramento is Chicago. So maybe they'll just send them back.
That's because they're just staring at the mirror.
Yeah, it's it's like
one person picks at their hair, the other picks at their hair. Like they're just how can we be functional around 500 and be over leveraged financially and have a European big who can't protect the rim and a bunch of frustrating offensive weapons and
the Sacramento Bull Kings are going to they're just basically merging together like Allison Brie and Dave Franco in that Together movie, just becoming one thing. I don't know. Like they just look at it like it is strange to the only person that seems to ever want to trade with this Kings team. And can we also talk about how weird it is that Jeremy Lamb is like an impactful person in the front office?
You know the story of how that happened.
Yes,
right?
He's dating his daughter.
Vivek's daughter, yeah.
Yes, but no, I'm saying that he's apparently giving advice and he has Vivek's ear.
Yeah, he's been yagoing
He's
for the last year.
Listening to Jeremy Lamb.
Well, you as a Thunder fan get to have a special opinion.
I hate him.
So
he was part of the. But I watched him in Indiana. I watched him in Charlotte. I always was like, there's a good player in there, but he looks half asleep all the time. And it's not just because he has those giant bags under his eyes, but he was never like, he didn't ever strike me as like a thoughtful, like intelligent person.
He wasn't playing a cerebral brand
Yes,
of
that's what I was
basketball.
trying to
That's for
say.
damn sure. Yeah,
I
I
was like,
got
dude,
you.
every decision that he makes, I'm just like, oh my God, has he ever played the game before? No, I
Well,
think he's just a super athlete. He was like 6'7", and he was like, I'm really athletic. Obviously, let me play basketball. But he's
look,
not like intelligent.
Vladdy got back into the fold as well, so I'm not going to just
I have
pin
no
it
problem
all.
with that, honestly.
Well,
Like,
I'm sorry. Do you remember who was in charge during all
I,
the other
I
bullshit?
really
Like,
don't. I really don't
we
see a
can
problem
run.
with this. I really don't see a
Okay.
problem. He just went right past Luca and was like, you know what? I'm zeroed in on this guy from Duke. He's going to be amazing.
Pretty sure he's also the same guy that drafted Papagiannis, one of the more famous
Oh my God, I
draft
forgot
bumps.
about him.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
my God.
so
I don't
all I'm
see how
saying
this can
is,
go wrong. I don't see the problem. What's the
I don't
issue?
want to. I don't want to bury Jeremy Lamb. Um,
I do.
wait, completely. I do think that it's interesting that what has happened with the Kings in the last year completely coincides with his elevation in terms of his input with Vivek. But then it was just like, and then you brought Vladdy back, and no offense to Vladdy, but you didn't do a good job the first time
Yeah.
around.
I
Like,
mean,
but
Vlade Divac is from Eastern Europe, had a chance to draft Luca and was like, nah.
nah, Marvin Bagley, that's the guy.
That's my guy. Yes.
That's the guy.
Okay, I will say this, and I always try to end these things and try and be somewhat positive. Max Christie, I'm sorry, Doug Christie, not
Doug,
Max Christie. Doug Christie. Yeah,
my
sorry.
brother from another mother. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, your doppelganger,
yeah.
Doug Christie. I want him to succeed, and they were 27 and 24 whenever he took over for Mike Brown last year. So
Yeah.
you know what? Like, I want him to get a longer leash. I don't know if he's going to get it, but like this kind of feels like one of those. And I'm not saying that Doug Christie is Gerard Mayo with the Patriots,
Well,
but
he
it kind of
cannot be
feels like
because he at
they're
least
like,
had some success. Gerard Mayo was an abject failure
yeah.
from the jump.
But they were just like, here you go. Here's this team. Now, can you go win with that? And he's like, no, I can't. What do you want me to do?
The thing with this group that's going to be where they're going to hang their hat in terms of Christie's influence will obviously be what they can be defensively. But
yeah, he's a defensive-minded coach, but they have no defensive players other than Keon Ellis.
Well, no, Schroeder is a good defensive player as well.
When he wants to be.
Nate Clifford will be a good defensive player when he gets into the league. Keegan Murray is a good defensive player. That all being said, I completely agree with you. And this center position, I don't know what it is with the Kings being obsessed with big, plotting white guys, but your centers are Domantas Sabonis, Maxine Renault, and Dario Saric. If I'm the opponent, now Sabonis moves well enough up and down the court, but I am running those bigs to death. Like those three guys are just so lumbering and not very good defensive players. Who knows what Renault will end up being? So I think he might be able to be a decent positional defender, but he is not fleet of foot. And his best skill is going to be his versatility offensively. This Kings team, the offense is not the problem.
Yeah, well, that's kind of if Dario Saric sees the floor, you have different problems with your franchise. That guy should never play. He's clearly just a contract now, the way that remember how people used to trade around like Wally Zerbiak's contract all the time, but the guy never played? That's what Dario Saric is just like, hey, we need $3 million to make this deal work.
That feels a little unfair to a multiple all-star and Wally Zerbiak, but I do understand it.
I'm saying I'm not comparing them as players.
I know
comparing their contract.
I think that when people were trading for Wally Zerbiak, they were still hoping that they were going to find something. I don't think anybody's hoping to find anything out of Dario Saric outside of somebody to hold up the end of the bench.
Yeah, he's just there to take up space, and he's like your break in case of absolute emergency. I got to roll this guy out there for 8 minutes. But like I said, I don't think this Kings team's going to be playing for anything. And I think more than likely, I would say they would blow it up if there was they have a bomb with no fuse. Nobody's going to light it for them. Well, let's blow it up. For what? They'd have to lose.
If Dario Saric is your break in case of emergency, that's like asking somebody to shatter the window in an airplane. You're just making sure everything goes down faster.
You're just throwing yourself against it. Yeah, it's not going to do anything. Yeah. But you said that you're higher on this Kings team than I am. So what is your number for what this team is?
I actually have them at 41 and 41. I still think
unreal.
There's no reason for they were 40-42 last year after a bad start. This group I think will think they're going to be a type of team that see now you got me rethinking it. No, I'm going to stick with 41-41. There is enough here as a regular season unit that they are going to be a play-in team again. And I think in the West that they can figure that out. They've won 40. They've averaged 43 wins over their last 3 seasons. Granted, De'Aaron Fox was a part of most of that.
I was gonna say,
but last year, they went 27-24, right, with Doug Christie. I think that this group is actually better than the group that finished the year last year just because Nick Clifford's going to solve some stuff for them defensively. He's a rookie. He's not going to come in and change things, but he's going to help. And Dennis Schroeder gives them more depth, especially Malik Monk was hurt a lot of the year last year, and he's important to them, so they have more guard depth. There's enough here for them to be a pesky, annoying team. It's not a group that I like come playoff time. Look, they lost to the Mavericks, who were a husk of themselves by the end of the season last year in a bad loss in the play-in. That's the type of end to their season I expect. But we talk about, we make the jokes about the Bulls, but at the same time, much like the Bulls who are constantly in that level of competitiveness, I think that's what this Kings team will be.
I hear you. I see what you're saying. I have them at 35-47. I don't think they're going to be that much better than Phoenix. I think this is a team that they were 22nd in defensive rating last year, and now I think if they get rid of Malik Monk and bring in Russell Westbrook, and you're saying that he's a better defender, but not by much. He's a positional defender, and I'm just
You also get Devin Carter, who you didn't have for the first half of the season. You get Dennis Schroeder, as we talked about. You're going to get a healthier version. Keon Ellis, who wasn't weaponized really until about a third of the way through the year.
That's fair.
And look, we're talking about 6 games, and that 6 games doesn't end up feeling like a lot over the course of the season. I will say the one thing, if we look at the Suns roster and the Kings roster, and you and I drafted, you would have Devin Booker, and then maybe the next 4 players might be Kings before you get back to the Suns. And that's part of my issue just with the disparity of talent. I think as an overall roster group, this Kings team does have it's not going to make a lot of sense. It's going to be like putting together a puzzle from 5 different sets. But I think that there will be something there.
As a guy who said that I thought that the Warriors were probably going to be the worst team in the state of California last year, I believed in this Kings team. Once bitten, twice shy. I'm going the other way. I'm saying this team flops. And this is the biggest, I think this might be the biggest disparity between projected wins and losses that you and I had.
Really?
I think 6 games difference. I'd have to look at the rest of my notes and see the rest.
That's only because on the last pod I was able to turn the course for you with the Sixers. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a big difference between Dallas. You had them at 34 and I had them at 40. But everything else, we've been within 2 or 3 games, at most 4. But yeah, 6 games is the biggest disparity we've had between these teams, which, brings me to my next team. Number 3 in the West. Is this who you had at number 3 in the West? The Golden State Warriors?
Clippers. I got the Clippers.
Oh no.
Now, I have the Clippers and the Warriors with the exact same record. So it doesn't matter.
You have the Lakers next?
I have the Lakers in first in this division.
You have Lakers in first. Okay. Well, I'm a.
We can do the Warriors because again, I have them at the same record, so it's not important.
I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's just the Warriors last year 48-34, 7th in the West, ended up in the play-in, made the midseason acquisition of Jimmy Butler, the much touted acquisition whenever Steph and Jimmy were healthy and they played together. They won 1 million games. They were one of the best duos in the league. All of that I've heard 1 million times. I doubt the Warriors because I don't like their roster construction, but Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, they just keep finding ways to make these teams win. They're always dangerous somehow. They just have that championship pedigree. The Golden State Warriors, let's start talking about them. They were 16th. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it does have to be said, I apologize because I didn't realize you were going to jump into the introduction of it. So 16th offensive rating, 7th defensive rating, which
is so shocking to me.
Yeah. I don't think it was when you watch them because they have the defensive personnel. Now, a lot of this is going to be contingent upon what happens with Kuminga. We'll get into that. But they were 23-7 with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And I know it was a part of the year that was an interesting part of the year, but the reality is they needed a second guy that was a legitimate guy, and Jimmy did provide that.
You're talking about a team that is probably going to start Brandon Pajemski and Buddy Hield, and at times started one, if not both of them last year. And you're telling me that you're not surprised, or that
No,
they're a good defensive? I'm surprised they're not good defensive players.
No, Brandon
Pajemski
is a good defensive player.
He's not a good on-ball defensive player.
Yeah, but he in their system for what they need, and more importantly, for as maligned as Buddy Hield has been, the player Buddy Hield was last year as a defensive player was far and away the best version we've ever seen of him. Now, that's not saying a ton, but it's not saying a ton when we consider what the profile was. But Buddy, there was a lot of talk from the Warriors organization with how impressed they were with how he ratcheted up his level of defensive intensity. Now, if I'm every other organization that's had Buddy Hield, I'm pissed as hell because you finally proved that you could lock in and play defense in a way that we had never seen. And he'll never be a good defender, but he was a perfectly adequate defender, which is so many steps above what he was in Philadelphia or Sacramento.
There were a lot of instances last year, and I watched a YouTube breakdown of this that somebody made, and I wish I could give them credit. I apologize to this person, but basically, it was Buddy Hield missing all the stuff that the Warriors do well: missing rotations, missing pass aheads, missing connecting passes, dribbling when he shouldn't have been dribbling, and then Steph Curry just being like, "I fucking hate this guy." He was screaming on the sideline, telling Kerr to basically pull him out. And then Draymond pulling him aside and be like, "What are you doing? This is what we do." And he figured it out, to his credit. And also, to Buddy Hield's credit, he shut me the hell up last year because I dumped all over that guy on one of our podcasts during the playoffs.
That was hilarious. And then he went fucking nuts.
Nuclear. He had one of the greatest games the greatest game of his career. As far as just the circumstances and as far as the way that he played, he was phenomenal. Shut my ass up like you would not believe. So I don't know why I continue to dump on Buddy Hield because he's more than likely going to make me look bad again. But he's still, to me, he's a bad defender. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that
no disagreement. But if you look at their defensive personnel, yes. Right, so first of all, we're still waiting on the Al Horford thing, which is strange, and the Jonathan Kuminga thing. So part of the conversation about the Warriors that's a little difficult to have is as currently situated, they have 10 players under contract. I don't know if anybody out there knows. That means they're only at 66% of a full roster. Now, that's because supposedly once Kuminga does or doesn't sign, then Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II, these are all guys kind of waiting around. But they have a lot of guys that are good in their defensive system, and that is obviously by intent. And so they can absorb a person like Buddy Hield with most of their defensive units.
If they decide that they want to start Al Horford, I think that's elder abuse, and they should not do that.
I don't think they will, except for unless they're going against bigger lineups.
They want to do a double big lineup. I get that.
They'll probably
they have to preserve him.
Yeah, I expect Trace Jackson Davis to get some looks again this season.
You'll get some Quentin Post because he can shoot.
Quentin Post, exactly. They have a lot of versatility because of Draymond's ability to play up defensively. Where
absolutely, he's still phenomenal.
Yeah, at the 4 and the 5, you're not going to have any consistent starter. Draymond will just be one of those two, and they'll have those other guys around. Moses Moody took a huge step up next season. I'm only selling them, by the way, as a regular season team. I think that this is the last ride of the Warriors, and I expect them to come out kind of pants on fire. Steph will be hot early. For everything about Steph's season last year feeling kind of interesting, he had the most 50-point games of any player. He's still such a weapon that he allows other guys to get into their stuff in a way that no other player can. We talk about the comparison to, he's like Randy Moss, where if you have Randy Moss on the floor, on the field, everybody else gets open because that guy is just going over the top. And that's what Steph does. And this Warriors team has enough talent to be a very good, and I'm only talking about, once we get to it, 3 more wins from last season, considering how they started to how they finished. I think that's within range.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that they're going to take some huge step back or anything. I just marvel at the idea that this current iteration is still somehow championship material, considering what the top of the West looks like. I just don't believe that.
I have a really hard time fathoming how this group can beat Oklahoma City.
You can see him beating Houston?
No. Well, that's where I was going to go. So separate of Oklahoma City, Houston, probably not, but I have to see what Houston's going to be, even though I feel pretty sure. Minnesota they can beat, just because I think Minnesota can play themselves in and out of any series. And some of the matchup stuff that happens there, obviously last year wasn't a great example because of Steph going down. But I do think they actually match up pretty well with Minnesota in a lot of ways.
And then Denver,
Jokic always feasts on them, but I think without even having to do the full rundown, Golden State can get as far as their matchups dictate. Some of these other teams, like Oklahoma City, who gives a shit who they play against? Like they're going to be the favorite. Denver, who cares who they play against? They're going to have a chance to beat them. And Houston, I think, is going to be like that. Minnesota, Golden State, I think the Lakers, the Clippers, those teams are going to be more contingent upon who they're looking at across the way. And so sometimes the bracket, quote unquote, falls to your favor. And this is a Golden State team who has enough championship pluck, enough talent, and enough defensive ability and versatility where I could see them making a deep playoff run. I wouldn't bet on that. I'd have them out in the second round next year.
What I have a problem with is the age. If you're going to roll out players like a 39-year-old Al Horford, a 36-year-old Steph Curry, a 36-year-old Draymond Green, a 37-year-old Jimmy Butler, all of these guys, as good of a players as they are, we've seen the injury history with them, especially now in Steph in the last few years. If Steph goes down, everything's done.
But that's always been the case, right?
I think the team was a little bit more built to withstand it when they had a prime Clay and Draymond, but we never had to see it back then.
But my point just being, even in those situations, if Steph was hurt, this Warriors team wasn't going to be a championship level team. Look, he played 70 games last season. He just got hurt at the wrong time.
I thought that was the most impressive, one of the most impressive things about his season.
And he played 74 games the year before.
I know. It's crazy. But
I agree with you with all the stuff with the age. But Jimmy allowing Steph to conserve some of himself throughout the entire course of the season can help with some of that.
Sure. Well, so you had them at 3+ wins?
Yeah, so I have them at 51-31.
Okay.
This season's only going to go one of two ways. This is going to be an old group that has some of their younger players help kind of fill in the pieces, and it'll feel like obviously it's a much older team, but that 87, 88 Celtics group where they had kind of crested and the guys were beat up and old, but they were still so wily and smart and really hard to vanquish. That's what I see in this Warriors team, where they're going to have enough there that if they make a last gasp run, I don't think it will get you to the finals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take somebody deep in the second round.
It'll be entertaining, no doubt. Yeah. I have them going back one game. I have them at 47-35.
Yeah.
I think it's a very similar team to what they had last year. And I think even the addition of Horford, but like you add a year to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the West also got better. I'm not saying they got like infinitely better. I think, teams improved. And I just think the West got harder a little bit, but I still think they're going to be there. And so that makes it easy because we already know what you're going to have for the Clippers, that you have them having the exact same record. But here's the big question. Who wins the tiebreaker between those two?
The Clippers.
The Clippers win the tiebreaker. Okay,
Yeah.
so that makes them the number 2 seed, or in the conference.
Hopefully, however they go about the tiebreaker, there is a lot of medical units around
Yes.
for that game, because holy crap, the average age of those two teams when
Yeah,
they
we're just
face
talking
each
about
other
old.
is, yeah. I mean, this Clippers team,
It's old as shit.
yeah. Now they have a little bit more youth in what their starting lineup may, although I mean we talked about Pajemski and Heald and maybe Kuminga. Like the Warriors and Clippers actually are just fucking old. Both of them are old.
Here's my thing, and I didn't bring up the Kuminga thing, and I just want to take one step back. The reason I didn't is because I don't think that I mean, yes, he would be important and impactful on this Warriors team. I don't think that he's as important, as impactful, like he's gonna like change the direction of what this team does. Like if they have him, they're 48-34. If they don't have him, they're 41-41. Like they're gonna drop 7 games without Jonathan Kuminga.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even know if Jonathan Kuminga is going to finish the season with them.
I don't know if he's good. I don't even know. Like, I think he's like shown spurts. He's shown like some examples of like what he can do as like an athlete and as an offensive engine. But he also makes a lot of really bad decisions. And as a defender, he is vacant behind his eyes. So I don't know if he's actually good.
When he locks in and he's engaged, he's very good defensively.
But I think he's an on ball.
Yes,
because he's so athletic.
Yeah,
but he does not play team defense. That was one of the biggest. That's why Kerr sent him, like benched him multiple times. That and the hogging the ball away from Steph, like refusing to pass to him, which that's fucking weird.
Well, Jonathan Kuminga and Benedict Mathurin to me have very similar kind of like.
That's a great comp.
Like, is he good? Because yes, when they're going now, I like Mathurin's offensive game more than like Kuminga's, just because Mathurin has more versatility in how he can attack you. But both of those players, I'm just and look, you can see the teams feel the same way, right? Mathurin hasn't got his extension, and Kuminga's still sitting there waiting for the money that he thinks he deserves. Who knows? The other part of this too is Kuminga. One of my biggest concerns with Kuminga coming into the draft process, so 4 years ago, was the body language, the maturity. I think he has become more mature. I still have major concerns about what this guy's full buy-in is, and if he doesn't feel like the Warriors believe in him, he's not going to believe in the Warriors. And that we've seen that, and I've heard that from people who cover the team. What does this offseason do to that? That relationship has already been so fractured and frayed. It's like taking Humpty Dumpty and dropping an anvil on it and then saying put it together after we smashed it more.
I honestly think he should just pull a Cartman and be like, take his ball and go home.
Yeah.
Like, why? I wouldn't want to go, even if I took the qualifying offer and I planned on going into free agency next year. The only thing that would make me want to show up to work is the fact that I'm working for a new contract next year. But I don't want to go to work with those guys. Yeah. You're telling me you're going to hold me prisoner for a year, but you want me to perform for you? I would be furious if I was Kuminga. I mean, I also think he's overestimating his value. He thinks he's on the level of a player that he's not.
And by the way, that's not, you don't think that. That is clearly apparent. What has somebody come up over the top with a huge deal for Jonathan Kuminga? Like, what is?
You're getting offered Devin Carter, and you're getting offered. I can't remember who the Suns were offering, but they were trying to. It was like a Grayson Allen and something else.
I want to shout out, I believe, so if I mess this up, I apologize, and anybody out there can correct me, but I want to say it was Sam Vecini and Bryce Simon who love their podcast. But I think they said, if I was the Warriors, I would make the deal for Devin Carter right now.
Why would you? What are they trying to hardball for? Do they think the Kings have something else they want?
But like, with where this situation's at, wouldn't you rather have Devin Carter on a rookie scale contract as a defensive player that can do a lot of things in your system to help you than have to bring Kuminga in? Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I agree, but we should probably move on because we're getting on time. But I agree with you; they should make that deal. But we're
if that was game theory, shout out. If it wasn't, I gave you guys credit anyways.
Yeah, there you go. So the new look Clippers, who had 5 additions, 4 of them made some waves.
4 of them collecting AARP.
Yes, Brooke Lopez, Chris Paul, John Collins, Patrick Baldwin, and Bradley Beal all added. Oh, by the way,
Is
I mean, I
is
was going to add Patrick Baldwin to the.
I was going to say, is PBJ actually going to be on the roster?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, do you remember when the Warriors got him? And
Yes.
everyone was like, the rich get richer. How did we let this happen? And he never played. So
I
I just
will.
want to be, they're in the Lakers zone, as then if they get any player, that player is automatically immediately elevated by 50%, even though they're probably not that good.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's keep talking about the Clippers because I know we're going to get.
While we're on Patrick Baldwin really quickly, I will say when you see him live, it is freakish how big he is as a stretch player. And then you actually watch him play. And I think we already made the parallels. It's the Darius Baisley corollary where I'm like, you look the part, but you ain't the part. Like,
Oh boy, that's a name.
one of your boys.
Darius Baisley, poor, hey, shout out to him. I hope he's recovering well. I don't know what that injury was, but he was actually showing some things that some Lakers fans liked during the preseason, and they kind of wanted him to make the roster. And hate to see anybody get hurt and go down like that. So
it's like being Gal Gadot. Ooh, Gal Gadot. And then once she starts to act, you're like, you know what?
Oh yeah,
that's all right. Never mind. That's right.
Hello, no. Oh, sorry, that's my awful Gal Gadot impression, but also she's awful.
It was spot on.
Yeah. But this new look Clippers team with their old man team, but I love the depth of this team. I love like all of the matchup advantages they can have if this team remains healthy. It's the biggest if in the world. The Clippers are the best on paper team and that's been a running joke for like the last, basically since the Kawhi Leonard era started in LA. They always look great on paper as long as he plays, which he hardly ever does. But we got to see a little bit of it last year. And this team, with Ty Lue as their coach, they couldn't quite find the offensive side of the ball, but they have always been stout defensively. They were third in defensive rating last season, 15th in offensive rating. But there was a stretch there in the middle of the season for a few weeks where they were like top 3 in both, and they looked like world beaters. And I think they've addressed some of the depth issues that they've had. And I'm kind of excited to see what Ty Lue does with all these new toys. But we have the Clippers last year, 50-32. They were tied for third in the West. They ended up being fifth with the tiebreakers. We've already covered the offensive and defensive rating stuff. So we have a projected starting lineup. It's going to be James Harden, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac.
Can we talk about how nasty of a defensive group that potentially is?
So good.
James Harden wasn't even bad defensively last year. Like, sneakily, it was one of his better defensive seasons. It wasn't like, oh, James Harden, let's get a sizzle reel going. But he played a solid brand of defense. I think he's kind of just figured out how to not be a turnstile and not do the stupid shit as often.
I have a thing about this. I think I said this about Luka like 2 years ago. But basically, Luka just remembered that he's big. And if he stops trying and reaching and just keeps people in front of him, people can't go through him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm 6'8" and I'm 260. Like, what are you going to do? Keep them in front of you, play back a little, make them shoot. And James Harden figured this. He's like, I'm 6'6". I'm 230 pounds. Like if someone tries to post up James Harden, he actually holds up super well in the low post. He doesn't let people back him down because he's already a ground bound person. He's already stationary. So he just puts his weight into it and doesn't let anybody push him around. I think he figured that out last year. Just keep people in front of you. Stop gambling.
And to his credit, he's always had phenomenal hands. Like, he's got great hands as a dig-in player, as kind of a rip as a guy comes by. He's always been very good at that.
He has one of my favorite strip blocks I've ever seen in my life. It was on like a one-on-one. This is years ago when he was in Houston.
Oh, when he looked away? And
the guy puts a shoulder into him and goes to put the ball up. He looks this way, slaps down. He just knew where the ball was going to be. Yeah. And I was like, that is one of the greatest defensive plays I've ever seen, but it's James Harden, so he never gets the credit.
Yeah, but anyway. It is a phenomenal play. Look, this group, first of all, the Clippers, they've been above 500, for 14 straight seasons. There's nothing about this group that leads me to believe, even if there's attrition because of injury, there's so much depth on this unit when you look at that second group. I mean, when coming off the bench, you've got we're looking at Bogdan Bogdanovic, John Collins, um, Bradley Beal. And even if Bradley Beal is just a every once in a while type of player, he's a good enough player as a bench player. That bench unit, Brooke Lopez, the Chris Paul, like that's a lot of guys that even as they have the injuries that are going to be inevitable because of this, not just because of how injury prone some of the players they have on this group are, but because they're coming in as one of the oldest teams in NBA history by average. But there's enough here, and Tyronn Lue has shown over and over again how good he is at filling and plugging holes and adjusting his style of play to his personnel. He doesn't get enough credit. We've talked about that. I have to stop using that term. I got to come up with something else. I can't say enough how much I think Tyronn Lue is such an innovative coach, and this group gives him so many different looks, so many different ways to play, and so many different things that they can kind of find themselves doing throughout the course of the year. It's just going to be a fun season to watch as they figure out. And then it's a bunch of veterans, so I don't expect them to have a lot of nights off or any of those other things that are going to catch up some of these other teams.
They can go so big, they can go so small, and they only have to do it for a couple of minutes to match whatever their opponent's doing. They have this lineup versatility that very few teams have. Like the best kind of teams can run out double big lineups that can hold their own. They can stretch the floor and shoot. They can run out these pesky defensive lineups if they got a great offensive team in front of them. They can run out a juggernaut offensive lineup. They have multiple guards who have like incredible experience in lob throwing and just basically in basic table setting. That's also my repeated phrase that I repeat on the podcast. I like table setting. I love a table setting point guard. Chris Paul's the ultimate table setter. Do you know how many lobs Zubac is going to catch? He's already got the most beautiful chemistry with Harden, and now you add Chris Paul to that, and like a guy who just knows how to throw lobs to bigs. It's like, yeah, I don't even expect Chris Paul to play more than 15 to 18 minutes a night at the most. They're going to save him and use them, and like they're going to platoon him whenever they need to give Harden a rest if Harden gets injured. Just having these kinds of options whenever you have an injury prone team is the kind of luxury that most teams do not have. And they have that. That's amazing. And I'm excited for it. Yes, they are old. Yeah, more than likely their star player Kawhi is going to find himself on the injured list at some point during the season. That's just kind of been, you can pencil that in. You can almost write it in Sharpie, actually. But I love the versatility. And I think they have the best coach in the division. And I love Steve Kerr. I think Ty Lue's the best X's and O's guy. I know that might be a hot take. I don't know.
I think that's fair. Particularly,
I think Kerr's like a personality manager. I think he's smart, and I think he does have tactician.
He's a leader of men, and I put that in quotation marks because it's overused, but it is true.
But no, I think he's a good X's and O's guy. I just think Ty Lue has shown me time and time again, because you can give him any lineup, and he's like, I'm going to get these motherfuckers to play defense. Yeah. I'm going to get these guys to be in position and do whatever I tell them to do. Kerr can do that. I'm just saying that his job a lot of the time during those championship runs was like, can you just make sure Draymond doesn't choke Kevin out? That's all I'm asking you to do.
No arguments here. I completely agree with it.
Cool.
The other thing about the Clippers.
Didn't know if that was a hot take.
The Clippers have 2 of the 15 best defensive players in the NBA, and that's excluding the guy who's already won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Yeah.
Right? Chris Dunn not making an All-NBA team because of the stupid rules that the NBA had, where he didn't average 20 minutes in 65 games, but he played over 1,700 minutes or whatever, was so dumb. But anybody who watches him defensively, that guy is a monster.
A menace.
What he can do on ball and getting in passing lanes. And then Ivica Zubac is just such a solid positional defensive player. He's a phenomenal defensive rebounder. And that's on top of the fact that, like, it's going to be interesting to see. We're entering the season with Kawhi healthy, whatever that is, quote unquote.
Oh, hey, I don't know if you heard the report, but he basically simulated the NBA Finals while they were out of the playoffs so that, he could be ready. I just want you to know that, like, if they made the final, if they beat Denver, he would have been ready to play in the finals because
He
he
was.
conditioned his body.
I'm
I
glad.
don't even know what that means.
I,
Was he playing 2K?
whatever comes out of Kawhi's camp basically sounds like Woodstock. Just
He
wah
was
wah wah
he was
wah
running
wah.
5-on-5 at the Y and was like,
Yeah.
you're Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You. Like, what does that mean? He simulated the finals. What?
Uh,
Whatever.
yeah.
But
Again,
I was gonna ask you a question. This might be another hot take. I don't really know. How how close is Zubac to being the second most important player on the team? I'm not saying he's the best, the third, like second best, because I know Harden and Kawhi. How he's the most important?
I'm not quite to the point of saying that he's more important than Harden just because of what
Okay,
Harden has to be as the
I was
offensive
asking how
catalyst.
close.
Yeah,
How like
it's
what?
like to me right now he's more important than Kawhi because Zubac is going to play a million games and a million minutes, and you don't get that out of Kawhi. Now,
And
for
and that's the thing. Can they replace what he does? Can they replace with like Brooke Lopez? Can
no,
he? No, because that's what I'm saying. You can kind of replace Harden in the aggregate as far as scoring and passing and all that stuff. You can't take away what that's kind of where my point went.
especially because even though defensively Lopez and Zubac do some similar things in terms of being rim protectors and a drop coverage, Lopez is a terrible rebounder and Zubac is a phenomenal rebounder. And that disparity for second chance opportunities and everything else matters so much to their defensive integrity that
Yeah,
it's just, you can't. Even though, like, you can squint your eyes and tell yourself that Lopez can do some of those things, and he will be able to in very short spurts. But if Zubac goes down and Lopez, who has just become Frankenstein from a foot mobility standpoint,
yeah.
has to go in, that defense is going to fall off a shelf.
I kind of was going to ask that question too. Do you think they're going to employ him differently? Because I kind of feel like they are. The way they're like, hey man, we saw what you were doing with the Bucks with all those threes and playing that drop coverage stuff. We need you to be in the paint more, rim protector, like how you were when you first came into the league.
Well,
Do
but
they?
I mean, him in the paint is what he was in Milwaukee. But I understand what you're saying.
But
But
they were bringing, but like he would get brought out, and they could only play drop coverage because he couldn't.
yeah, but they didn't want to bring him out. That was just because the Bucks didn't have the personnel to
They didn't
have
have
anybody
anybody
as a
else.
point of attack defender. What
Yeah,
they want to do is have Lopez sinking back and have that, but Lopez had to be overextended.
I
Uh,
just think he shoots less threes by like on a per minute scale. Like
oh,
when he's like, I think like you can look at his per minutes, like per threes per minute when he was with the Bucks. I think that's going to drop pretty percent. I think they're going to ask him to shoot less and just rim protect and rebound more. So hopefully we see those numbers rise a little bit.
yeah, I think a lot of that's going to depend on what the units he's rolling out there with. There's going to be a lot of figuring out how he plays because with John Collins, you may want to actually have Lopez stretching out to the three so you can run pick and roll with Collins being the guy that's attacking the rim or the guy that's on the backside because you want to allow Collins to play some of the vertical lob game with Paul and Harden, and Lopez being in the paint stymies that stylistically. So you actually will have to figure some of those things out. But again, there's going to be so much. They might go double big a few times where we see Zubats and Lopez out on the
It's
floor,
going to
and
happen.
that's going to be crazy. Like I don't like it's like uh, I don't know what a comparable grouping is because you don't see two big, relatively immobile guys on the floor together like that. But because of Lopez's ability to stretch and you can run zone and do some other kind of things, that's going to be a look we'll see a few times, and it's going to be fun. I don't know if it'll work, but it'll be entertaining.
Have you ever seen those statues on Easter Island?
Yeah, yes.
That's what it's going to look like out there. They can't run that for more than like 8 minutes, like ever.
But think about
That's a lot of minutes.
how much fun is it going to be when they play the Rockets and like the Rockets try to roll out like Capella and Adams and it's Zubac and Lopez out on the floor.
It's just like the crowd. The crowd should immediately turn into like a wrestling crowd and just start chanting "meat." When that's what they chant whenever they have two big dudes in there, and they're like, "It's a meat match." Just through like them just hitting each other with haymakers.
It'll be
That's
like
what I
the
want to
scene,
see.
the cinematic scene from Jurassic Park where you pull out and it's like the brontosaurus and all these slow moving animals, and then it's like a velociraptor or something running down. Yeah, lying down along like on the grass. Like those guys just and all the guards just shimmying around them. Anyway, so
Okay, so let me get my record in for this Clippers team. I have them winning. They were 50-32 last year. I have them going 51-31. I think I have them right there with you.
I have the same record. After this conversation, I want to go a little higher. I just don't trust.
I feel like you brought me down to earth. You reminded me they're old as shit too. We didn't talk about the John Collins piece enough, and we should touch on that real fast. I really do like his athleticism and his versatility at the 3 and the 4. I want to see him shoot it consistently a little bit better. I think he's going to get a lot of great looks. I also think he's going to get a lot of great lobs like he did in his first couple of seasons in Atlanta. I think he is such an X factor for them because I don't know how they want to use him. And then you talk about the injury part of this. He might have to be playing a lot of different positions, 3, 4, 5, depending on who's out of the lineup that day.
Well, fortunately for him, being in Utah, he had a lot of injuries that were of the rest kind, and he only played 40 games last season.
I was saying that he's going to be feeling. I think he's like the young gun, and he's like 29. Yeah, no,
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. He's going to be coming in rested. To his credit, he shot 38.2% from the 3 over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. So he's found his 3 ball. There's going to be like. They'll have some offensive groups where maybe Collins is a small ball 5 and you have Derek Jones and maybe Kawhi Leonard like that. There's going to be a lot of like fun things
small ball 5. He's done it before.
Yeah, we've seen it. He did a little bit in Utah and Atlanta. I like the Collins addition a lot because, to your point, he gives them so much. We keep hammering this with them, and it's really an exciting thing when you talk about this roster, is the amount of versatility that they're going to have stylistically. And Collins is a perfect fit in that he can slide into a bunch of different positions, play a bunch of different roles for you. He can be a lob threat or a stretch guy. And after this conversation, I'm going to have to hit up Law Murray because we got to talk about the Clippers a little bit more. So
yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So that gets us to our number 1 team. I've already changed my record on them like 3 times, but we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, and we're talking about Skinny Luka.
Yeah,
what up, Skinny Luka? So yes, the Los Angeles Lakers of Los Angeles, of all of their championship glory and their purple and gold, they were 50-32. They ended up being 3rd in the West last season. They had an offensive rating that was 11th. They had a defensive rating that was 17th. But somehow had a nice little stretch. Was able to piece it together down the stretch, especially after the addition of Luka Doncic. Seemed to re-energize the entire team,
including the defensive unit, which is an important part of the conversation. Yeah, they had figured some things out in terms of how to play defense as a regular season team that I think we'll see more sustained throughout the course of the year this year. Although,
what did JJ Redick call those guys? The defensive guys? God, I read that article and now I can't remember what he was calling them. Like it was like demons, but not that.
Okay, I
can't remember. But yeah, you keep going.
Yeah. So look, obviously the biggest thing with this Lakers team is it's going to be the first full year of the Luka experience, and where everybody kind of settles into their roles will be interesting to watch. They brought in DeAndre Ayton. You can feel however you want to about it. One of my concerns about DeAndre Ayton is Luka loves rim running bigs, and Ayton doesn't prefer to do that. He really likes to pick and pop because he thinks that he's a stretch big. But Luka does not play well with pick and pop bigs because of how he likes to kind of function off of his hitches and stop start jitterbugging in that intermediate space once he comes off a screen. So I just this is kind of just like a little micro thing, but in that first 10 games of the year, the number of times that Luka is going to yell at DeAndre Ayton for not getting the hell out of his way when Ayton pops on a shot is going to be quite interesting to watch. They'll figure that stuff out. There's enough here with this group that they're obviously going to be exciting. Look, LeBron, the fact that he's still playing at this level is insane. And despite all the drama in this offseason, he's going to come in and be the guy that we expect. And JJ Redick having a full offseason of watching how to use LeBron and Luka together with Austin Reeves, who had a great season last year too and is playing for a contract. This is going to be a really exciting offensive group. And I think that they're going to have some games where like we see 3 guys go for 25 or 30.
Yeah, I mean, they do. Look, they have a lot of offensive punch on this team, and they have a lot of guys. And by the way, the name was Banshees.
Banshees,
That's I
okay.
just remember he was like, "Oh, we got a bunch of Banshees on this team," and then they Jordan Goodwin was one of them. Jared Vanderbilt was one of them. They let Jordan Goodwin walk. But anyway, yeah, I think so. We also get the full experience with JJ Redick as a coach. Like that's the other part of this is like we get a full year with this full roster. They have a lot of offensive punch. These guys, you remember like when it was like, hey, these three guys combined for 75 points. We're going to see a lot of that with the Lakers because I feel like that their scoring is going to be incredibly top heavy, and you're going to get stat lines from Ayton that are like 10 and 12, 8 and 14. So that's him dominating, and
8 of 14. Is that the number of free throws that what his free throw shooting will be through December?
So 8 is the number of times that Luka drops his shoulders and hangs his head whenever he shoots a 12-foot baseline jumper. And 14 is the number of times LeBron looks over at JJ Redick and says, "Sup this motherfucker out." Again, I've always been lower on Ayton, and again, the same thing happens every time. He's living in purgatory in Portland. Nobody wants him. Nobody will trade for him. He's got that awful contract. And then he goes to the Lakers, and all of a sudden it's a good signing. Oh my God, they pulled the wool over the league's eyes. Rob Pelinka's a genius. The second they go to they go to the Lakers, apparently you get 50% better than you've ever been in your entire career. So dominating's back, baby.
Well, now what I will say that's interesting is you can make a reasonable argument for now that happens with the Lakers no matter what because it's the Lakers. You can make a reasonable argument that when you put a skilled player with LeBron and Luka, they will get better. Except for what DeAndre Ayton does best, to me, does not fit perfectly with what those guys do. Now, look, this is a player who coming out of college was drawing David Robinson comparisons because he was such a freak athlete. He was so strong and he was so mobile. And then we figured
we're going back to the Marvin Bagley draft.
Yeah, yeah. And then we figured out, unlike the Admiral, this guy just didn't care. Like there's just not everything David Robinson was as a competitor. DeAndre Ayton is the exact opposite, right? And so, like, scratch that. But the bones of that comparison in terms of this really mobile, athletic big should still be there. Like, we should, and so maybe he comes in pissed off. Maybe he actually does care. Maybe LeBron can and Luka can. Well, maybe not Luka from a leadership standpoint, but maybe those guys actually can. To me, it's just silly though to go, oh look, it's found money. Like DeAndre Ayton, like the Blazers were asking him to stay home.
Anybody could have gotten him if they wanted him. Nobody else wanted him, and the Lakers were also out of options. The Lakers missed out on every other available center free agent. They even lost out on Brook Lopez, who was their number one targeted goal, to their crosstown rivals. They didn't even get Brook Lopez. He chose to take less money to go be in LA with the Clippers because he thought that was a better situation for him. Anybody could have had DeAndre Ayton. They didn't want him because even if he felt disrespected by the team, which he was disrespected by Phoenix, and he was disrespected by his coach when he was there, he had just been to a championship. He had just been in the finals. And if you felt like you were disrespected by them, to your point, his motivation was to shut down and be like, well, I don't want to play anymore. I'm going to go pout. Yeah. Instead of, I'm going to show you what I'm made out of and how valuable I am and how much you need me. No, he sulked and he quit. And I will never trust a player like that. And I don't care what situation he's in. And then you put him on a team with the biggest whiner, the biggest pouter. No one cries more than Luka does. I don't care how skinny he is. He's still going to be screaming to the refs every goddamn time. So you got two guys who sulk and cry and pout and quit, and JJ Redick, who's fiery as shit. And he's going to be in their fucking ears. I just think this is such a combustible situation in LA. Like, as much as I like this team on paper, I could see this going so wrong. And then we haven't even factored in the LeBron piece, which has been hanging a black cloud over the Lakers for this entire offseason. The note that Rich Paul put out, all the cryptic IG posts he's been putting out, working out in different facilities.
The summer league thing where he wouldn't talk about the Lakers. You know,
it was
he wouldn't.
So weird. He has been so weird. And I don't know if you saw this, and I don't give a shit about 2K ratings, but it's the first time in his career that he's been ranked lower than a teammate. It's the first time he's ever not been. Like, Luka's a 98. He's a 97 or something, like 97, 96. It's never happened to him before.
Are we sure Luka should be that high? Considering
are we sure LeBron should be that high? I think LeBron's great, but like.
But look, based on last season, LeBron James played a better brand of overall basketball than Luka Doncic.
He turned it on defensively, but he was really coasting there for a couple of months where I'm like, oh, he's just going to play one side of the ball?
Yeah, but Luka never plays that side of the ball.
That's true.
We've never seen Luka turn it on. Now, I'm not really arguing for that. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Bronny had a problem with being ranked to 68 or whatever it was, and I was like, that's generous. Dude, you're not even an NBA player. Chill out. Like, calm down.
Yeah,
like,
what are we doing?
Be happy you're in the game.
Yeah, you're getting talked about because your dad brought you in.
I think
Kendall Roy energy.
All your points. God, I was waiting for a Succession reference on the show. I appreciate you.
Yes.
All your points with the Lakers are 100% valid. The reality, and I think you expect the same thing, I think, is Luka's going to come out in world beater mode. And this team is probably going to start out. They're going to be figuring some shit out, but I wouldn't be shocked if they come out the gate like 20-10 or something. Yeah. And Luka's playing out of his mind, and it settles all the other noise and all the other bullshit. And we're just kind of playing. Now it's Los Angeles, so it'll only take one cryptic text from LeBron or one weird thing, and it'll start back up. But this group, because of how top-heavy they are, but because of the way those top-heavy players can make everybody around them so much better, as a regular season unit, I would be shocked if they're not putting some ass or some belt to ass to some teams early on.
I think they're going to smoke a lot of teams because LeBron and Luka are so smart together, and Reeves is such a gifted – like, that's such a gift as a third option to have a player of Austin Reeves' caliber, even though he can't defend for shit either.
Don't tell Rush that.
Oh, well, he knows, but he has him on his all defensive squad.
Yeah,
it's all heart and hustle.
He was so offended when I said he was a traffic cone, and I was like, "You're right. That's unfair to traffic cone." Yeah, traffic cones at least tell you where to go. He's a chair. He's the chair E. Jinglion had his tryout against before he was drafted way too high. Real quick with Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves last year put up 26 and 4 on 46, 38, and 88. Like, that is, as a third banana,
that's all-star numbers.
Bill Simmons has made this point. He might have been the best third player on a team in the entire NBA last year.
We were having that discussion on Threads. We were like, who's the best number 3 option? And it was like Austin Reeves, Chet, Desmond Bane, or Jaren Jackson Jr., depending on how you put those guys. Like, at the time.
Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't really sure. Like, at the time, I was like, damn, that's actually. And then Boston was obviously in there. It was like, was it Derek White? It was like, and then you go to New York, even. Yeah. OG Anunoby. Is he, or is that one of the best third guys in the NBA? So it was an interesting question. Yeah. But like, those numbers, those are comparable to Jalen Williams' numbers at the All-Star break. But like, Jalen Williams plays defense.
Yes,
offensively, offensively, he was putting up. Jalen Williams was the number 2 option. He's putting up number 2 option numbers on great efficiency.
Yeah,
that's nothing to sneeze at. And that was another thing I was going to bring up. As much as I like Austin Reeves, they still have to pay him.
Well, I don't know if Austin Reeves is back next year.
Like, the most they can offer is like 4 for $94, isn't it? It's something. It's less than $100 million for 4 years. Yeah. He can get way more than that on the open market.
Yeah. Now, we said this 2 years ago, and for whatever effing reason, why the Spurs or why the Jazz didn't make the Lakers have to pay. Like, I know that this is why wouldn't you just throw? Because, like, if you're especially at the time, if you're the Spurs or you're the Jazz, and they were obviously much further. I mean, Jazz still kind of stink, but the Spurs were bad at that time. What's the worst that happens? The Lakers don't match it. You end up with Austin Reeves. Awesome.
Oh no.
Yeah, but the Lakers were going to have to match it. They were going to have to match it.
I will never I will never forgive Portland for making Oklahoma City match Enes Kanter. I will never, ever. 4 years, $68 million for Kanter at a time when $17 million was a lot of money. And I was like, you know what? That's just smart business. They made Oklahoma City pay the money, and that's what you do to your opposing team. You're like, look, we'll take him. They would have.
Yeah.
I think Portland would have been glad to have him.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma City was like, shit, we can't just give him up for nothing. So we got a match. And that's what you do. I don't know what, like, the Spurs must have been distracted that day. I don't know what those guys were doing.
That was such a weird thing that happened there. And hopefully this go round, somebody, I mean, look, the Lakers are still in the catbird seat because of having bird rights and everything. But if I'm another team, I'm like, because Austin Reeves is awesome. If you told me I had Austin Reeves at Emmanuel Quickly money, I'd be ecstatic.
Oh my God. Yeah. Is he a restricted free agent or is he unrestricted after this year? Because if I'm him,
he's unrestricted, but they'll have bird rights.
Okay, yeah, but if I'm him, I'm testing that market. I'm like, look, guys, I got to go get mine.
Well, they offered him an extension this summer, and he turned it down.
But it was the only offer I think they could have offered him, which I think he was always going to turn down. So they still have to pay him.
I mean, again, we could say that, but he took under market value on his last deal.
But I think that was but like $23 million for him that's way too little.
Yeah, but they have him at 14 right now, and at the time that was crazy. All of us, when I heard that number when it happened, everybody went, "Whoa!" So good for Austin for he had exceeded that contract before he stepped on the floor, and now he's so overvalued for it. But we're getting a little too lost in the weeds about him. But he does deserve this type of conversation.
Well, I mean, we talk about the top three with this team because I don't like this Lakers bench at all.
Who scores off the bench? Ugh.
No one. I'm like, I like their starting five a lot. Because I like Ayton in a fourth, offensive player role. I like their big three. I like Hachimura as a versatile 3-4-5. I like the way that they can do that. Vanderbilt comes off the bench, and then it's like Gabe Vincent.
Vanderbilt just coming off the bench, trying to make sure he leads the league in fouls per minute.
He comes off the bench and like draws a charge on the referee at the scorers table. He just runs him over and is like, "What? I didn't do anything." That guy has he's like a toddler. He just runs into stuff and then can't believe he runs into stationary objects and can't believe that he gets called for a foul.
Brother, I'm standing right here. Object, knocks that down.
I've been standing here this whole time. I set a screen 8 blocks ago, and you still ran into me.
Gabe Vincent was good in the second half of last season.
I like Gabe Vincent. I thought he was a good addition for them when they got him.
Marcus Smart is an interesting player in their guard rotation because of his ability to defend, really 1, 2, and 3. Taking the ball out of his hands, to me, I actually like. Now, the question is going to be, does he just end up a non-factor as an offensive player if he's not being a playmaker?
I don't even know what he looks like as an athlete anymore.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him outside of street clothes. Has he lost weight? Has he gained weight? Did he bulk up? Did he trim down? Did he work on his jump shot? What's he been doing the last 2 years? I have no idea. He's been in Memphis and Washington, and he might as well have been in the Bermuda Triangle. I had no idea what he's been doing. I haven't heard one thing out of camp that was Marcus is in tremendous shape.
Yeah, but I mean, from there it falls off a cliff real fast. Maxi Kleba, who has been this summer's sizzle reel superstar, by the way. I don't know how many Maxi Kleba workout videos you've seen, but dude got jacked. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. He's old, slow, and can't stay on the floor. I love Maxi. But it's just like the reality of who he is as a player at this point. Great, you're showing me how he looks phenomenal for a guy that should be retired. So
yeah, I think I saw a TikTok with Dirk dancing with his niece, and they have the same mobility.
Yeah,
their knees look the same.
Dalton Connect had his soul stolen last
Yeah,
year and has
he
not
was not
been
the same player since he came back.
post trade. And since then, his confidence is so shot. He
Did you
might
see
be
him in
done.
summer league?
Yes, it was bad,
It was not
bad,
good.
bad, bad. The, he didn't even look good as a summer league player. And for
That
what
was
he's supposed
yes.
to be, he is supposed to be excelling at summer league and then being a pretty good NBA player.
Yeah, he was at least supposed to be Duncan Robinson. You
Yeah,
were at least supposed to get that out of him.
and when a guy is struggling like that at the free throw line, it tells you everything you need to know about it being a matter of
Loses
confidence.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, I mean, did LeBron see that on his tape from Tennessee when he was watching them all the time? I wonder if he saw like what his problem is, since he
he
watched
will
them so
he
intently.
will definitely tell you in the upcoming season if he's struggling that he absolutely knew that was coming and had there was foreshadowing, and when he did all his work, he knew Dalton might struggle, but this is where, because Papa LeBron always knows best.
He read that in a book somewhere. um, I I am high on this Lakers team. I will admit that as it is, but they're also the subject of my spiciest take. So, do you want to go with your record first, and then
Yeah, so I've got this group at 53-29.
I had them at 54. So
Okay.
we're right there. But my spiciest take is LeBron is disgruntled. This is, again, I want to remind our audience, this is the spiciest of spicy. I don't think this is going to happen. I just think that, like, if this does happen, call me a genius and a fortune teller. But so LeBron's unhappy. The team's struggling a little bit. There's some tension between him, Luka, and JJ. Everyone's thinking that he's going to go to Miami. He gets traded to the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean that. What does Jimmy Butler end up a Laker in that spicy scenario?
I think Draymond ends up a Laker.
Wow.
And they run it with those three. They put Draymond with Luka because they need a defensive guy to kind of help out with Ayton and mold him into a tough guy. So they run out the Luka, Austin Reeves. They're like, this is our future, and DeAndre Ayton as our big three. Thank you for your service, LeBron. Go play with Steph and Jimmy into the sunset. You guys make a run at it.
What's the over-under on games before Draymond has physically assaulted DeAndre Ayton?
I think it happens in the locker room because, like, he has to, like, set his tone like he's in a prison yard. He walks in and socks DeAndre Ayton out and is like, this is my team now, and you're going to play defense my way. And if I see you shoot one elbow jumper, I'm going to kill you.
Well, if it goes prison rules, he's got to take out the toughest guy, which means he's punching Jared Vanderbilt. And I would pay per view for that contest because those two guys.
He's going to make Ayton watch him while he makes pure eye contact while he beats up Jared Vanderbilt.
Ayton's just holding his pocket the whole time.
So, yeah, that's my spicy hot take for the Pacific Division is LeBron gets traded midseason, like early in the season, because the team's like 14-12, and they're like, we got to do something.
My spicy hot take is John Collins wins Sixth Man of the Year.
Wait, say that again? You got to
My spicy hot take is John Collins wins Sixth Man of the Year.
Ooh, I like that one. That is good.
Lakers, I think, are going to be. I don't know what this group looks like as a playoff team. Obviously, the defensive stuff is going to be a major issue. I expect JJ Redick to probably finish in the top 3 for Coach of the Year.
Yep.
But
I think Luka's he's a shoe-in for top 3 MVP. Like, shoe-in for that. I'm guessing he's going to win, but
I guess, yeah, I was going to say maybe that's my spicy take, but we've already given that take that I have Luka as the MVP right now.
No, I don't think that's a question, but I'm saying he's a shoe-in for the top 3. He's going to
absolutely.
He's past Giannis. I think he's with SGA and Jokic. And but yeah, I mean, I had a medium hot take. Hold on. The medium hot take that I had was that the Clippers would finish 4th above, like they win the division and they're 4th in the West behind OKC, Houston, and Denver. So I think they're the 4th best team. They're past Minnesota. They're past the Lakers. They're past the Warriors and Memphis and all the others. So that was medium spicy. I don't know. People are kind of down on that Clippers team. They think they're like a solid 5 seed, probably a 6th. I don't know. I had him. I could see him at 4. Everything goes right.
It's gonna be so weird with this Clippers team because it if everything goes right, it's gonna be an amazing season. If everything goes wrong because of Ty Lue, they'll still be good, but it can get so weird and
it's gonna get messy.
bad.
They could run out some weird ass lineups, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. This Pacific Division, you're right. This is going to be a super fun one.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to cover before we get to rants and raves? Yeah, about to say, get yourself ready. So I know this is a basketball podcast, but we talk about other sports. I actually found this out today. I did not know that my co-host over here, Aaron Bullwinkle, is a Dallas Cowboys fan. And we never talked football.
Oh, that's why I just didn't know.
Yeah, I've seen the Texas Longhorns tattoo, but you said that was for a friend, so I didn't know you had a Cowboys connection.
These are the Cowboys stars.
I never saw it on the other side. The
second or third tattoo I've ever had was the Cowboys stars because I wanted stars. Everybody was getting the NorCal star, and so I got the Dallas Cowboys star.
Well, there you go. Well, today, Jerry Jones, after a months-long hold-in with Micah Parsons, their superstar edge rusher, they decided to trade him to the hated Green Bay Packers for a defensive tackle and 2 first-round picks, and the Packers handed him the bag. 4 years, $188 million with $120 million guaranteed. Woo! That's hot stuff.
Before I even start my rant, does anybody remember who eliminated the Cowboys the last time they made the fucking playoffs?
Yeah, it was Des caught the ball.
That
too. Oh, but that was the Aaron Rodgers, the sideline throw, the slidings.
Jordan Love whooped the shit out of us in the playoffs 2 years ago because the Packers always beat us, and then we trade Micah Parsons. Okay, I'm going now. So first of all, let me start. I want to say this with my whole chest. Fuck Jerry Jones. I am so over being underneath this guy's regime and having to be in this circumstance where, as a Cowboys fan, we are tethered to this owner who, to Dr. Thompson, he nailed it, has main character fucking energy. I've been watching the Cowboys, the gambler and his team, or whatever fucking self-filleting thing the documentary is called, and it has been phenomenal, except for Jerry Jones. I have to sit there and watch Jerry Jones's ego just continue to grow as he tries to show this emotional bullshit side. Everything is about him. It is so maddening to be part of a franchise that has the level of equity in the space as an organization, not just in the NFL, but in the sports landscape, and to have an owner to who his credit has done plenty of things to help aggrandize the Cowboys, but also loves to fucking forget how important the Cowboys were before he ever came around. They were America's team thanks to Tex Schramm, not you, Jerry Jones. Now, you've done plenty of things that's been great for the brand of the Cowboys. We haven't mattered since 1995, and every time we seem to have things going in a good direction, your ego has to get in the way. You can't have Bill Parcells because he's taking too much of the air in the room. So then we have to go through like this wave of fucking, emasculated coaches, Dave Campo, Jason Garrett, and we have to suffer through all of that. Then on top of that, you actually do a pretty decent job as somebody drafting, but you think you're so good at this that every time we have a superstar level player, you want to play this stupid ass hardball. CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, and now Micah Parsons. You could have signed all of those guys a year before for less money. Everybody knew it, and instead you wanted to go to the table with them. You lose 2 of those negotiations. In reality, you lose all 3 because we end up with Dak Prescott as the most expensive quarterback in NFL history at the time. And no offense to Dak, he's never been worth that. CeeDee is phenomenal, but you pissed off a guy that didn't need to come into the season upset with you. And then when we lose the best or second best defensive player in the NFL right as he's cresting into his prime for not even a good haul. This isn't even the Herschel Walker deal. We get 2 draft picks from a team that's about to be really fucking good because you just traded the guy that's going to be the defensive player of the year. I'm so over Jerry Jones having his old decrepit hands around all of our necks as fans. Just go away. I don't even like Stephen Jones, and I just want the Stephen Jones era to begin. This the last few seasons have driven me absolutely insane. And it's not just because of the fact that the Cowboys always feel toothless come playoff times. It's just because the offseason has to be a bigger circus than the season can ever be, because Jerry Jones just can't help make sure that he has to be the biggest fucking story. And now the best defensive player that we have had since, I don't know, Charles Haley, Deion Sanders, 30 years ago when the Cowboys used to be good, is now going to go line up against us and probably just absolutely destroy us. And it, like, separate of my rage, which is very clear, there is legitimate hurt, because as a fan, this just doesn't make sense. Like, this isn't how this has to be done. You're not smarter than the system, and stop trying to be. You're senile and selfish.
That's how you cook. That's how you rant and rave. By the way, it's week 4, Sunday Night Football. The Packers are playing at Dallas. Week 4. So it's soon. It's not far. It's about a month away. I grew up in Oklahoma. My grandfather and my uncle on my mother's side, we would always spend Thanksgiving with them, and they loved the Cowboys. And I would watch them, and I look at my aunt. I love my aunt. My aunt, she put up with my uncle's Cowboys fan, and I think she was a Steelers gal. She would just be like, I don't know why they think they're going to be good. They're never good. And every year it was the same thing. Them screaming at the TV, Dallas underperforming, and I was like, you know what? I kind of hate this team too. And I just enjoy it, because I have Cowboys fans in my life, and every year they keep buying into the bullshit that this year it's going to be different. That this year is going to be, it's not going to be the same as it was, because we got this or we got that. They've had some of the most impactful offensive players in the last several years. They've had some great offenses. I like Tony Romo. I end up having to defend Tony Romo to Cowboys fans. I was like, you think it's his fault?
Phenomenal quarterback. I love me some Tony Romo. Love me some Tony Romo.
They had Des Bryant. They had Ezekiel Elliott. They had, I mean, you can go on and down the list. They've had some phenomenal players. And you're right. It is this white racist billionaire's ego who just cannot get over the fact that he tried to make a sweetheart deal without talking to Micah Parsons' agent. And he was like, maybe Micah said, I agree to this, but he's not going to do that without his representation signing the contract. And they were like, whoa, we're not taking that little money. And Jerry was like, well, we had a deal. We shook hands. This isn't 1964 on an oil derrick. You have to actually, go through the fucking legal process of writing these contracts out. Shaking some guy's hand or cornering him at the football field does not make a contract happen. And there is so much I hate about the Cowboys, the ego and the entitlement and I say that as someone who's a Yankees fan, but at least we fucking won something in the last 30 years.
Last 30 years, okay.
30 years. We were in the finals last year,
What's so tough for me, and thank you guys for anybody who was willing to ride that out. Hopefully, again,
if you did ride that out, you missed out.
What has always been so tough, like, I became a Cowboys fan because when I started, like, my sports fandom, I always picked the antithesis of my dad's favorite team. So this is like, my self-conceptualization of sports was in the late 80s. So it's the Cowboys and Niners as a rivalry. So I got to jump on, and I will freely admit, the bandwagon at a very good time. Now, it was before they won their first Super Bowl, but they were good. And I got to sit there and watch 3 out of 4 years where they won a Super Bowl, in spite of Jerry Jones doing the bullshit that happened with Jimmy Johnson and the whole Barry Switzer thing. And shout out again to that documentary for painting Barry Switzer in a light that a lot of people needed to see, because I think for so long, Barry Switzer's been a butt of a lot of jokes. And in reality, he was a complicated man who actually deserved some of the plaudits that he wasn't given. But that all being said, the Cowboys have not actually mattered besides their profile as a competitive football team since 1995.
No.
That is effing insane. It's one of the worst runs of ineptitude in terms of playoff performance in the history of the sport for a team, to your point, that likes to still walk around with their chest puffed out because of who they used to be. That was like, I can remember, we won 5 Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. Now the Steelers and the Niners and all these teams
the
just
Patriots.
Like, look at us like, the Patriot, like, that's cute, bro. I remember when I was 12 too. Like,
yeah. I just, and I'm not trying to get like too heady about these things, but all of these major teams that used to win a lot of championships, they're all just brands now. They don't actually win. The Yankees don't win. The Cowboys don't win.
You guys were in the World Series last season. I just need an NFC championship game.
Manchester United doesn't win. Like, who wins?
That's so unnecessary, by the way.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying. These teams, like, they're just about brand recognition now.
Man U was actually surprisingly good 2 years ago. Like, the Cowboys, the Yankees, and Man U have been viable, competitive entities in the last 10 years. The Cowboys have not. They have just liked to talk like they have been. They haven't even been at the precipice of being dangerous. Yeah. And to me, your point is totally valid, but they at least still have had the moments that allow for them to kind of,
but it suckers the fan base back in, because here's the like.
Yeah, but Cowboys fans, like you said, Cowboys fans are always irrationally like that. They don't get suckered in. I've been dealing with this for 30 years because I have so many friends, and every season I get messages, this is our year. And for the last 10 years, I'm like, don't tell me that shit. Don't talk to me till week 12. Like, I don't even want to do that.
We have one Cowboys fan in our in my friend group, my fantasy football group. It's like my group of oldest friends. And we were just like dumping the news out about the Micah Parsons trade. And I literally just tagged him in a message. And I was like, hey, get in here. We want to make fun of you. Because that's what we do whenever, like, I mean, dude, I root for the Panthers. And I literally said to him, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I was like, I never thought I'd live in a world in 2025 where the Panthers have a brighter future than the Cowboys. Over the next 5 years, I'd take the Panthers, like what they're building, over what the Cowboys are doing. For the next 5 years, the Cowboys.
I'm not a Bryce Young guy, and prior to the Micah Parsons shit, I would have fought adamantly with that. I had
the Cowboys as a playoff team with Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
I had them in the NFC playoffs, and I was like, guys, they can win the NFC East. Like if something bad happens to, God forbid, but like Saquon Barkley had almost 500 touches last year. You think he can do that again?
No, he's going down.
I mean, yeah, it's 500 touches. That's crazy. Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback, and he's never been super accurate. He had some confidence issues. Like, the division was open. I think Washington was going to take a step back, and I thought Dallas had a chance to either be second or even first. You trade Micah Parsons, and I'm like, the Giants could be better than them. What are we doing? They have Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. They at least know how to pay an edge rusher.
And the problem is, and it's really to the issue of Jerry Jones's fucking hubris, is it's not just the Micah Parsons thing. It's the punting on a running back last year. Like, he thinks he's smart enough to game the system, and he doesn't even know the fucking game anymore. It's like having somebody who was like, man, I was awesome at Game Boy, jump on your PS5 and think they can still figure out how to play Elden, whatever. Like
Call of Duty. You're like, what do all these buttons do?
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta go pick up his pack. What's in there?
Yeah, is this in color? That's Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones is playing by the old rules, and it's so bad. No, I'm sorry. I feel for you. I really do. This Dallas thing is.
The shittiest thing is, I've been trying to separate myself from the NFL for years, and fantasy football has been the mechanism that has allowed me to stay tethered. And so the Cowboys over the last few years, feeling like they were starting to build something, and then last season into this season, I just want to hit fast forward. And I don't wish anybody unwell, but I would very much like Jerry Jones to go away by whatever mechanism does so.
I was like, look at all these skill guys. I was like, they got Diggs in the secondary. They got Parsons on, I was like, they got a lot of talent. And then I'm like, and they had that offensive line. They blow the offensive line up. They get rid of Parsons. And now I'm like, I don't know what to, now they can't run the ball. They're just going to throw it all the time. and like Dak's gonna get killed behind a bad offensive. Like, what are we doing?
We had Amari Cooper. We let Amari Cooper go too early. Like we just enough of the fucking Cowboys. God damn it!
Hey man, this is what fandom does to people. It just eats them alive.
Yeah,
they don't give us. They really. It's like they keep giving us the stick, and we keep thinking we're going to get the carrot. I don't know why we think we are, but
and what's gonna piss me off is I'm gonna have to listen to that bloviating asshat talk in that drawl and point fingers at everybody else for 3 straight months.
Yeah. Oh man, that's tough.
4 straight months.
Well, is there? That's called rant and rave, guys. That's called rant and rave. That's how we do it on this show. We cook on the last 5 minutes. If it's not for you, that's cool, but you're missing out on some great all-time rants because you know what? We actually give a shit about these things. We're fans too. We are also like no one's paying me to be like, hey, you got to be objective. I can be as unobjective as I want to be, and yeah, it feels terrible, but it also feels good to get it off my chest.
So, I feel lighter. I feel less.
I really hope that you do. That's why I gave you the runway, buddy. Well, is there anything you want to promote or put out there before we call it quits?
I will definitely have an article in the next week and a half for you. On top of that, I had a really good conversation with Bob Bilotti talking about WNBA parity and what that's going to look like in this age of rapid expansion for the WNBA. For those that listen to this podcast, it's a very different format, much more dry and interview style. But for those that also want to just kind of educate themselves a little bit further, Bob has been an analyst in the NBA for over 30 years. He covers the WNBA extensively now. And so it was a good talk. Going to continue to kind of ramp up as the season goes in terms of my content, both with podcasts and writing to the best of my abilities as we work around our schedules.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm looking forward to your article. I'm looking forward to all your work. As always, it is on the Basketball Intelligence Network. If you are not subscribed to that, if you are not subscribed to Aaron's Substack or follow us on Threads, there's a lot of really, really good stuff that's being pumped out. They go out on the internet. They collate all this stuff together for you, and they put it in one easy to read, easy to find email, and you get it daily. So the Basketball Intelligence Network is a very cool, very worthwhile email subscription. And this podcast is a part of it, and we appreciate them so much. And I appreciate Aaron. You're my co-host so much. I'm sorry that we missed each other last week. Just a lot of work stuff, and I had to leave town and go to Tampa and do my fantasy football draft. By the way, I hurt my own feelings. I drafted Saquon Barkley, and I know that he's going to get hurt, and I don't know why I did it, but I did make sure to afterward trade for his cuff. So
that's smart. I had the first overall pick in my draft and went Jamar Chase, which terrifies me because even though I love Jamar, every year that I've had the first overall pick, the guy that I've selected has played 33% of the season.
You're like the Madden curse.
Yes.
Well, so we do an auction draft where you get $200 to bid on your whole team.
I prefer that.
And I was like, most of the time I try and spread my money around. And what I've been doing is I keep getting a good team, but not like a great team. And then like a good team that gets hurt becomes a really bad team real fast. So I was like, you know what? You're going to need someone at the top. My keeper was T. Higgins. I spent money on Saquon to get him. And then I like my team. I think it's really well balanced. I think my quarterback position kind of sucks. I have Justin Herbert. I'm not super thrilled with that. He could have a good year, but it seemed like last year they put like training wheels on him and they're like, just don't throw picks.
Yeah.
And he only threw like 20 touchdowns. I'm hoping he doesn't repeat that, but Will Shipley. I could see Will Shipley, if Saquon gets hurt, having a big year. So this is not a fantasy football advice column, but there you go.
We did finish the last 20 minutes with football, but thank you guys.
We appreciate you guys, and we're going to end this podcast the same way that we always do by saying adios.